Dr. Marcus Thorne was everything a surgeon should be. Brilliant, decisive, with hands that could perform miracles in the operating room and a bedside manner that made patients feel like they were his only concern. At 42, he was the youngest chief of neurosurgery at St. Vincent's Medical Center, with a reputation that extended far beyond our city. I was Eleanor Thorne, his wife of 15 years, the woman who had stood by him through residency, fellowship, and the grueling climb to the top of his profession. Our life was a carefully constructed masterpiece, a sprawling colonial in the city's most exclusive neighborhood. 2 children, 10-year-old Lily and 7-year-old Noah, and the kind of social standing that came with Marcus's position. I'd built my own career as an art curator at the city's premier museum, a position that complemented Marcus's status rather than competing with it. We were the power couple everyone admired, Marcus saving lives, me bringing beauty to the world. Marcus's nurse, Clara Hartwell, had been with him for 3 years. At 28, she was everything I wasn't. In my late 30s, youthful, energetic, with auburn hair that fell in perfect waves and a smile that could disarm even the most difficult patients. I'd liked her initially, grateful for how competently she assisted Marcus during complex surgeries, how she anticipated his needs in the operating room, how she occasionally brought him coffee when he was working late at the hospital. "You're lucky to have Clara," Marcus often said. "She's the best nurse I've ever worked with." I agreed, never imagining that his admiration went beyond professional respect. Detailed backstory sensory richness. I first met Marcus during my senior year at Columbia. He was a third-year medical student, volunteering at a free clinic where I was interning. I was organizing art supplies for the children's waiting area when he approached, introducing himself with a smile that crinkled the corners of his warm brown eyes. "I've seen your work around the hospital," he said, gesturing to the colorful murals I'd painted on the clinic walls. "You have real talent." We talked for hours that day about art, medicine, our shared passion for making the world better. Marcus spoke of growing up in a small town, the first in his family to attend college, his dream of becoming a neurosurgeon after his grandmother died from a brain aneurysm. I shared my own story, my childhood in Europe, my mother's influence as a curator at the Louvre, my dream of bringing art to underserved communities. Our courtship was intense and romantic. Marcus would show up at my dorm with coffee and croissants after his 28-hour shifts, falling asleep on my couch while I studied. I'd bring dinner to the hospital, sitting in the cafeteria for hours just to steal 30 minutes with him between cases. When he proposed, it was in front of Monet's water lilies at MoMA, tears streaming down his face as he said, "You've brought so much beauty to my life, Eleanor. I want to spend the rest of mine bringing beauty to yours." Our early marriage was a whirlwind of residency moves, financial struggles, and shared dreams. I supported us through his brutal neurosurgery residency, working 3 jobs while he slept 4 hours a night. When Lily was born, Marcus held her in his scrubs, still covered in blood from an emergency craniotomy, whispering, "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." When Noah arrived 3 years later, Marcus cried openly, saying, "Our family is complete." By the time Marcus became chief of neurosurgery at 38, we had achieved the life we'd dreamed of: financial security, professional success, a beautiful family, a home filled with love and art. I curated acclaimed exhibitions at the museum, Marcus performed life-saving surgeries, and our children thrived in private schools and extracurricular activities. We hosted dinner parties for hospital donors and museum board members, our home filled with laughter, intellectual conversation, and the warmth of a seemingly perfect family. Clara's introduction. Detailed. Clara Hartwell joined Marcus's surgical team 3 years ago. I met her at the hospital's annual gala, where she was receiving an award for excellence in nursing care. She was striking tall and slender, with auburn hair cascading down her back and an easy confidence that drew people to her. Marcus introduced us with obvious pride. "This is Clara, my right hand in the OR. I couldn't do what I do without her." Clara shook my hand, her grip firm and cool. "Dr. Thorne exaggerates," she said, her voice musical. "He's the genius. I just try to keep up." I liked her immediately. She was intelligent, articulate, and clearly dedicated to her work. Over the next months, I heard Marcus mention her frequently, how she anticipated his needs during surgeries, how she advocated for patients, how she had a natural instinct for neurosurgical care. "She's going to make an excellent nurse practitioner someday," he said one evening over dinner. "I'm encouraging her to go back to school." I encouraged Marcus to mentor her, seeing in Clara the same drive and passion that had defined his own career. When Clara started joining us for occasional dinners, always as Marcus's colleague, never as a social companion, I welcomed her into our home, into our lives. I never imagined that her admiration for Marcus went beyond professional respect, that his praise for her masked something deeper, something dangerous. The first signs. Expanded timeline. The changes began subtly, so gradually that I dismissed them as stress or imagination. January. Marcus started working later, citing complicated cases or administrative responsibilities. When I questioned it, he'd sigh, "The hospital is expanding the neurosurgery department, Eleanor. There are a million details to manage." I believed him, proud of his leadership role. February. Marcus began taking his phone everywhere with him, even to the bathroom. When I asked about it, he laughed. "Hospital business, Eleanor. You know how it is. Emergencies don't wait for convenient times." I accepted his explanation, though something felt off. March. I noticed Marcus checking his phone frequently, smiling at messages he wouldn't share with me. When I asked who was texting, he'd say, "Hospital admin," or "a colleague about a case." I tried not to feel jealous, telling myself I was being paranoid. April. Marcus started coming home showered and changed, even when he claimed to have come directly from the hospital. When I mentioned it, he looked uncomfortable. "There's a gym at the hospital now. I've been working out between cases to relieve stress." It made sense, so I let it go. May. Marcus bought expensive cologne and started getting manicures, things he'd never done before. When I teased him about it, he said, "I'm meeting with hospital donors more frequently. Need to look the part." I admired his dedication to his role. June. I found a receipt in Marcus's pocket for La Petite Maison, an intimate French bistro known for its romantic atmosphere. The date was a Tuesday when Marcus had claimed to be operating until midnight. When I asked about it, he shrugged. "Dinner with the surgical team. We were celebrating a successful outcome." The explanation seemed plausible, so I dismissed my unease. Internal monologue deepened. As these small changes accumulated, I found myself questioning my own perceptions. "You're being ridiculous," I told myself. "Marcus is devoted to you, to the children. He's under incredible pressure at work." But another voice whispered, "Something's wrong. You know it. You feel it." I remembered the early years of our marriage, how Marcus would call me between surgeries just to hear my voice, how he'd bring me flowers for no reason, how he couldn't keep his hands off me. Now months passed without real intimacy. When I initiated sex, Marcus would comply, but his mind seemed elsewhere, his movements mechanical. "He's tired," I told myself. "Saving lives takes its toll." But at night, lying awake beside him, I'd replay our conversations, searching for hidden meanings, clues I might have missed. I remembered Marcus mentioning Clara with increasing frequency, how she'd handled a difficult patient, how she'd anticipated his needs during a complex surgery, how she had a natural talent for neurosurgical care. He's mentoring her, I told myself. That's all. Yet the doubt lingered, a persistent whisper in the quiet hours of the night. What if there was more to it? What if Marcus's admiration for Clara had crossed professional boundaries? The thought was so painful, so terrifying, that I pushed it away, burying it under layers of rationalization and denial. Chapter 2. The first cracks. The changes were subtle at first. Marcus started working later, citing complicated cases or administrative responsibilities. When he came home, he'd retreat to his study immediately, claiming exhaustion. Our sex life, once passionate and frequent, dwindled to perfunctory encounters once every few weeks. I told myself it was stress, the pressure of his position, the emotional toll of his work. Marcus dealt with life and death situations daily. It was natural that it would affect our marriage. I tried to be understanding, bringing him tea when he was working late, giving him space when he seemed distant. But there were other signs. Marcus started taking more care with his appearance, buying expensive cologne, getting manicures, something he'd never done before, joining a gym. He became secretive about his phone, always keeping it face down, taking calls in another room. One evening, I found a receipt in his pocket for a restaurant I'd never heard of. La Petite Maison, an intimate French bistro known for its romantic atmosphere. The date was a Tuesday when Marcus had claimed to be operating until midnight. When I asked about it, he shrugged. Dinner with the surgical team. We were celebrating a successful outcome. The explanation seemed plausible, but something felt off. I dismissed my unease as paranoia, the product of too many nights alone, too much time with my own thoughts. Detailed behavioral changes, Marcus's transformation became more pronounced as the months passed. The man who once couldn't wait to come home to his family now found endless reasons to stay away. His excuses evolved with time, becoming more elaborate and less convincing. Emotional distance. Marcus stopped asking about my day, my work, my feelings. Conversations became transactional discussions about the children's schedules, household logistics, bills to pay. The intellectual intimacy that had defined our marriage vanished. When I tried to engage him in discussions about art, politics, or books, he'd nod absently, his mind clearly elsewhere. Physical withdrawal. The affectionate touches that once punctuated our days disappeared. No more hugs from behind while I cooked, no more hand-holding while walking, no more spontaneous kisses. In bed, Marcus began sleeping on his side of the bed, a space growing between us that felt physical and emotional. Secretive behavior. Marcus became protective of his privacy in ways that felt excessive. He started password protecting his laptop and phone, changing passwords frequently. When I walked into a room while he was on his computer, he'd quickly close tabs or switch screens. One afternoon, I found him deleting his browser history, claiming he was cleaning up old files. Appearance changes. Marcus's grooming habits shifted dramatically. He started getting regular facials and manicures, bought expensive designer clothes, and began using hair products to cover the gray at his temples. When I commented on his new cologne, he said, "The hospital is pushing for a more polished image for department heads." It seemed reasonable, but the change felt performative, like he was dressing for an audience I couldn't see. Schedule changes. Marcus's work schedule became increasingly erratic. He'd cancel family dinners at the last minute, miss school events he'd promised to attend, and arrive home hours later than planned. His explanations were always plausible. Emergency surgeries, administrative crises, patient emergencies. But the frequency felt suspicious. The receipt incident expanded. The receipt from La Petite Maison became a turning point in my awareness. I found it on a Thursday evening while doing laundry. Marcus had left his suit jacket draped over a chair in the bedroom. As I checked the pockets before sending it to the dry cleaners, my fingers brushed against a small piece of paper. It was a receipt from La Petite Maison, dated the previous Tuesday, a night Marcus had claimed he was performing emergency surgery until midnight. The receipt showed 2 entrees, a bottle of expensive wine, and a note scrawled in the margin, for the best surgeon and his favorite nurse. C. My heart stopped. Favorite nurse? The phrase echoed in my mind, each word a hammer blow. I remembered Marcus mentioning Clara frequently, praising her skills, her dedication, her natural talent. But this was different. This felt personal, intimate. When Marcus came home that night, I was waiting in the living room, the receipt on the coffee table before me. He entered, looking tired but satisfied with his day until he saw me, saw the receipt. His expression shifted instantly, surprise, then guilt, then a carefully constructed mask of innocence. "What's this?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. Marcus picked up the receipt, examining it as if seeing it for the first time. "Dinner with Clara and a few others from the team," he said, his voice too casual. "We were celebrating a successful outcome on the Henderson case." The note says, "For the best surgeon and his favorite nurse," I pointed out, my heart pounding. "That sounds personal, Marcus." Marcus shrugged, avoiding my gaze. "Clara's been instrumental in that case. She deserves recognition." He met my eyes then, his expression earnest. "It's purely professional, Eleanor, I promise." I wanted to believe him. I did believe him mostly. But a small seed of doubt had been planted, and it began to grow in the fertile ground of my fears and insecurities. Internal conflict deepened. That night, I lay awake beside Marcus, replaying our conversation, analyzing every word, every gesture. He's telling the truth, I told myself. Clara is just his colleague. The note was innocent. But another voice whispered, "Why did he look so guilty? Why did he avoid your eyes?" I thought about the past months, Marcus's distance, his secrecy, his changing appearance. I thought about Clara, her youth, her beauty, her obvious admiration for Marcus. I remembered how Marcus lit up when talking about her, how he praised her skills, how he seemed energized after working with her. The doubt grew, feeding on my fears and insecurities. What if there's something between them? What if Marcus is attracted to her? What if he's having an affair? The thought was so painful, so terrifying, that I pushed it away, burying it under layers of rationalization and denial. But the seed had been planted, and it began to grow, its roots wrapping around my heart, its leaves casting shadows over my marriage. Chapter 3. The Unraveling. The unraveling began on a rainy Thursday in October. Marcus was supposed to be in surgery all day, but I needed to drop off his laptop charger, which he'd left on the kitchen counter. I decided to surprise him, maybe take him to lunch. At the hospital, I went directly to his office. The door was slightly ajar, and I heard voices inside. Marcus's familiar baritone and a woman's laugh that I recognized as Clara's. "I can't stop thinking about last night," Clara was saying. "The way you looked at me across the table." "I've never felt this way about anyone," Marcus replied, his voice tender in a way I hadn't heard in years. "Not even Eleanor." My blood ran cold. I stood frozen in the hallway, unable to move, unable to breathe. The sounds from the office continued, each word a knife twisting in my heart. "We need to be careful," Clara said. "Someone might see us." "I don't care anymore," Marcus replied. "I want to be with you openly. I'm going to tell Eleanor it's over." The words echoed in my mind as I finally turned and walked away. The charger forgotten. I drove home in a daze, the rain blurring the windshield like my tears. The discovery, detailed scene. The drive home passed in a blur of rain and tears. I barely remember the road, the traffic lights, the other cars on the road. My mind was reeling, replaying the words I'd heard, each one a fresh wound. I've never felt this way about anyone, not even Eleanor. I want to be with you openly. I'm going to tell Eleanor it's over. The words echoed in the hollow space of my chest, each repetition a new wave of pain. 15 years of marriage, 2 children, a life built together, all reduced to this moment, this betrayal. When I arrived home, I sat in the garage for a long time, the engine off, listening to the rain drumming on the roof. The house looked the same, as always beautiful, welcoming, the home I'd created with so much love and care. But now, it felt like a facade, a stage set for a play I no longer wanted to star in. I went inside, moving like a sleepwalker. The house was quiet, Lily at school, Noah at daycare. The silence was oppressive, filled with the ghost of words I couldn't unhear. I sank onto the sofa, my body trembling uncontrollably. The tears came then, hot and torrential, streaming down my face as sobs racked my body. I cried for the marriage I thought I had, for the future I imagined, for the children who would be hurt by this betrayal. When the tears finally subsided, I was left with a hollow emptiness, a cold certainty that my life was about to change irrevocably. Confronting the evidence expanded. Over the next days, I became a detective in my own marriage, gathering evidence of the betrayal I now knew with certainty was happening. Phone records. I accessed our online phone account, scrolling through months of call logs. There were dozens of calls between Marcus and Clara at all hours, late at night, early in the morning, far more frequent than necessary for professional communication. Credit card statements. I reviewed months of credit card bills, finding charges for restaurants, hotels, even jewelry purchases that Marcus had never mentioned to me. A dinner at La Petite Maison on Valentine's Day, when Marcus had claimed to be at a medical conference. A weekend at a luxury hotel in the mountains, when Marcus had said he was attending a surgical symposium. Emails. I found emails between Marcus and Clara on his laptop. I'd guessed his password it was our anniversary date. The messages were increasingly intimate, filled with longing and desire. "I can't wait to see you tonight," Clara wrote. "Every moment away from you is torture," Marcus replied. Text messages. I found text messages on his phone. Again, I guessed the password. They were even more explicit than the emails. "I need you," Clara wrote. "I can't stop thinking about your hands on me," Marcus replied. Physical evidence. I found gifts in Marcus's closet that I'd never seen before. Expensive lingerie, jewelry, perfume. I found a key to a hotel room in his wallet. I found a love letter from Clara in his coat pocket, filled with declarations of love and desire. Each piece of evidence was a fresh wound, a confirmation of the betrayal that was destroying my marriage, my family, my sense of self. The emotional impact deepened. The emotional toll of this discovery was profound and far-reaching. Physical symptoms. I lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks. I couldn't sleep, lying awake night after night, replaying the evidence, the conversations, the betrayal. I developed migraines so severe I could barely function. My hands shook uncontrollably at times. I felt constantly nauseous, unable to eat. Psychological trauma. I experienced symptoms of PTSD flashbacks to the moment I overheard Marcus and Clara, nightmares about the betrayal, panic attacks triggered by reminders of Marcus or Clara. I felt constantly on edge, hypervigilant, unable to relax or feel safe. Existential crisis. The betrayal shattered my understanding of reality, my trust in my own judgment. If I could be so wrong about Marcus, about our marriage, what else was I wrong about? The foundation of my life felt unstable, unreliable. Identity crisis. I had defined myself for so long as Marcus's wife, as part of our couple, as half of a partnership. Now, that identity was shattered. Who was I without Marcus? What was my life without him? Grief. I grieved the death of my marriage, the loss of the future I had imagined, the betrayal of trust. This grief was complex and layered sadness, anger, fear, confusion, all mixed together in a toxic cocktail of emotion. Shame. I felt ashamed of the betrayal, as if it were somehow my fault. What had I done wrong? What had I missed? Why wasn't I enough for Marcus anymore? The emotional impact was overwhelming, all-consuming. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of pain, with no life raft in sight. Chapter 4. The Confrontation. Marcus came home at his usual time, acting as if nothing had changed. He kissed my cheek, asked about the children, and settled into his routine, as if he hadn't just declared his love for another woman. I waited until the children were asleep, my heart pounding with a mixture of rage and grief. When Marcus emerged from his study, I was waiting in the living room. The evidence I'd gathered spread across the coffee table. "We need to talk," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Marcus looked at the paper's credit card statements showing dinners and hotel bookings, photos of him and Clara leaving restaurants together, even a love letter I'd found in his coat pocket. His face paled. "Eleanor, I can explain." "Explain what?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "Explain how you've been fucking your nurse behind my back? How you've been lying to me for months? How you've destroyed our marriage, our family?" "It's not like that," he stammered. "Clara and I, we connected. She understands me in ways you never could." "Understands you?" I laughed, the sound harsh and broken. "She understands you because she doesn't have children to raise, a household to manage, a career to maintain while supporting yours. She has the luxury of focusing entirely on you, something I haven't had in 15 years. Marcus had the decency to look ashamed. "I never meant to hurt you." "But you did," I said, tears finally falling. "You hurt me in the worst possible way. And for what? A fling with someone half your age who's infatuated with your position?" "It's not a fling," Marcus insisted. "I love her." The words hung between us, final and devastating. "Then you need to leave," I said, my voice breaking. "Tonight. Take what you need and get out of my house." The confrontation, detailed dialogue blocking. Marcus entered our home that evening with his usual confidence, dropping his briefcase by the door, loosening his tie. "Eleanor, I'm home," he called out, his voice echoing in the foyer. I was waiting in the living room, the evidence spread across the coffee table like a damning exhibit. The room was dark, except for a single lamp, casting long shadows that seemed to emphasize the darkness between us. Marcus walked in, smiling, until he saw me, saw the papers, saw the expression on my face. His smile faltered, then disappeared entirely. "What's this?" he asked, his voice suddenly tight. "The truth," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor in my hands. "Or rather, evidence of your lies." Marcus approached the coffee table, his eyes scanning the paper's credit card statements, phone records, emails, text messages, photographs. His face paled as he took in the evidence of his betrayal. "Eleanor, I can explain," he began, his voice pleading. "Explain what?" I interrupted, my voice rising with each word. "Explain How you've been fucking your nurse behind my back. How you've been lying to me for months. How you've destroyed our marriage, our family. Marcus flinched at my language, at the raw anger in my voice. It's not like that, he stammered. Clara and I, we connected. She understands me in ways you never could. Understands me? I laughed, the sound harsh and broken. She understands you because she doesn't have children to raise, a household to manage, a career to maintain while supporting yours. She has the luxury of focusing entirely on you, something I haven't had in 15 years. Marcus had the decency to look ashamed, his eyes dropping to the floor. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, I said, tears finally falling, my voice breaking. You hurt me in the worst possible way, and for what? A fling with someone half your age who's infatuated with your position? It's not a fling, Marcus insisted, his voice gaining strength. I love her. The words hung between us, final and devastating. I felt them like a physical blow, knocking the breath from my lungs. 15 years of marriage, 2 children, a life built together, all reduced to this moment, this betrayal. Then you need to leave, I said, my voice breaking with the weight of my grief. Tonight, take what you need and get out of my house. Marcus looked up, his eyes wide with shock. Eleanor, please. The children are asleep, I interrupted, my voice gaining strength. They don't need to see this. They don't need to see their father packing his bags because he couldn't keep his dick in his pants. Marcus flinched at my crudeness, but I didn't care. I was past civility, past politeness. I was raw, bleeding pain and rage. Where will I go? He asked, his voice small. That's not my problem anymore, I said coldly. You should have thought about that before you started fucking your nurse. Marcus stood there for a moment, as if hoping I'd change my mind, as if this was all a bad dream he'd wake up from. But the evidence on the coffee table told a different story. A story of betrayal, lies, and broken trust. Finally, he turned and walked toward the stairs, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I listened to him moving around upstairs, the opening and closing of drawers, the zipping of suitcases, the sound of a life being packed away. When he came down with 2 suitcases, he looked at me one last time, his eyes filled with regret. I'm sorry, Eleanor, he said softly. Sorry doesn't fix this, Marcus, I replied, my voice cold. Sorry doesn't undo the betrayal, the lies, the damage you've done to our family. Marcus nodded, as if he knew I was right, as if he understood the magnitude of what he'd destroyed. He walked to the door, opened it, and stepped out into the night, leaving me alone with the wreckage of our marriage. Immediate aftermath, detailed scene. The silence that followed Marcus's departure was deafening. I stood in the living room, surrounded by the evidence of his betrayal, and felt the weight of what had just happened settle over me like a shroud. I walked through the house, touching the familiar objects that now seem foreign. A family photo on the mantel, Marcus's favorite coffee mug in the kitchen, his pillow on the bed. Each touch was a reminder of what I'd lost, what had been taken from me. I went to the children's rooms, watching them sleep. Lily curled around her stuffed bear, Noah spread-eagled across his bed, both innocent and unaware of the earthquake that had just shattered their world. Tears streamed down my face as I thought about how to tell them, how to explain that their father wouldn't be living with us anymore, that our family was broken. I returned to the living room and sank onto the sofa, the evidence still spread across the coffee table. I picked up a photo of Marcus and Clara at a hospital event, their heads close together, their smiles intimate. I stared at it, at the obvious affection between them, at the betrayal it represented. The anger I'd felt during the confrontation began to fade, replaced by a profound sadness, a grief so deep it felt like it would swallow me whole. I curled up on the sofa, hugging a pillow to my chest, and finally allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had happened. My marriage was over, my family broken, my heart shattered by the man I had loved, trusted, and built a life with. The tears came then, hot and torrential, streaming down my face as sobs racked my body. I cried for the marriage I thought I had, for the future I imagined, for the children who would be hurt by this betrayal. I cried for the naive woman who had believed in perfect love, in forever, in the unbreakable bond of marriage. When the tears finally subsided, I was left with a hollow emptiness, a cold certainty that my life had changed irrevocably, and that the road ahead would be long and difficult. Chapter 5. The Aftermath. Marcus left that night with a suitcase and a string of empty promises. The next days were a blur of legal consultations, emotional breakdowns, and practical arrangements. I met with a divorce lawyer, Margaret Chen, a sharp, compassionate woman who specialized in high-asset divorces. The news spread quickly through our social circles. Friends called, offering support and sympathy. Marcus's colleagues at the hospital were shocked, Dr. Thorne, the paragon of professional integrity, having an affair with his nurse. Clara was reassigned to another department, but the damage was done. Marcus's reputation suffered, and whispers followed him through the hospital corridors. The medical community is small, and scandals travel fast. The worst part was telling the children. Lily, at 10, understood enough to be devastated. Noah, at 7, was confused and upset. "Why doesn't Daddy live here anymore?" he asked repeatedly. "Did he stop loving us?" I reassured them as best I could, holding them when they cried, answering their questions with honesty appropriate for their ages. "Daddy still loves you," I said, "but Mommy and Daddy can't live together anymore." Legal proceedings, detailed process. Meeting with Margaret Chen was the first step in navigating the legal complexities of divorce. Her office was a fortress of law books and case files, but Margaret herself was warm and compassionate, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Let's start with the facts," she said, opening a fresh notebook. "How long were you married?" 15 years, I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "Children?" "Lily, 10, and Noah, 7. "Assets?" I listed them. Our home, valued at 8 million. Marcus's retirement accounts, totaling 5 million. My retirement account, 400,000. Investments, 800,000. Vehicles, art collection, jewelry. Margaret nodded, making notes. "And the affair?" I described what I'd discovered, the overheard conversation, the evidence I'd gathered, Marcus's admission that he loved Clara. Margaret listened intently, her expression thoughtful. "This is a straightforward case," she said finally. "Marcus's affair is clear-cut, with substantial evidence. Given his income and the length of the marriage, you're entitled to significant alimony and child support." Over the next weeks, Margaret and I worked together to build a strong case. Financial documentation. We gathered bank statements, tax returns, investment records, property deeds, every piece of financial information relevant to our marriage. Evidence of affair. We compiled all the evidence I'd gathered: phone records, credit card statements, emails, text messages, photographs, character references. Margaret contacted friends and colleagues who could testify to Marcus's absences, his emotional distance, his focus on work over family. Professional impact. We documented how Marcus's affair had affected his professional reputation, the hospital investigation, the reassignment of Clara, the whispers among colleagues. The legal process was grueling, emotionally and mentally exhausting. Each meeting with Margaret meant reliving the betrayal, examining the evidence, Making decisions about the future of my family. Social fallout. Detailed reactions. The news of Marcus's affair spread through our social circles like wildfire, leaving a trail of shock, judgment, and gossip in its wake. Hospital community. Marcus's colleagues were stunned. Dr. Richardson, the chief of medicine, called an emergency meeting to address the situation. Clara was immediately reassigned to the oncology department, far from neurosurgery. Marcus was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into violations of the hospital's fraternization policy. Social circle. Our friends reacted with a mixture of sympathy and judgment. Some, like Sarah and Michael, were supportive, bringing meals, offering to watch the children, listening without judgment. Others, like Jennifer and Robert, seemed to distance themselves, as if Marcus's infidelity might be contagious. School community. Parents at Lily and Noah's school whispered behind my back at pickup, their expressions a mixture of pity and curiosity. Some teachers treated me differently, their sympathy genuine but uncomfortable. Professional community. My colleagues at the museum were supportive, but I could feel the shift in how they perceived me. No longer part of a power couple, but a single woman navigating divorce and single parenthood. Family. My parents were devastated, angry at Marcus for hurting me, worried about the children and me. Marcus's parents were ashamed, apologizing profusely for their son's behavior, offering support in any way they could. The social fallout was isolating, reinforcing my sense of betrayal and loss. I felt like I was under constant scrutiny, my private pain made public for everyone to see and judge. Telling the children, expanded scene. The most difficult part of the aftermath was telling Lily and Noah about the divorce. I waited a week after Marcus left, wanting to give myself time to process my own emotions before burdening them with the news. I chose a Saturday morning when we would have the whole day together to process their reactions. We sat together on the sofa. The children snuggled close to me. "Kids," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "I need to talk to you about something important." Lily, at 10, was perceptive. She looked at me with worried eyes. "What is it, Mommy? Is Daddy sick?" Noah, at 7, climbed onto my lap, sensing my tension. "Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. "Daddy and I have been having some problems," I said carefully. "We've been arguing a lot, and we've decided that it would be better if Daddy lived somewhere else for a while." Lily's eyes widened. "You're getting a divorce?" she asked, her voice small. I nodded, tears welling in my eyes. "Yes, sweetie? Daddy and I are getting a divorce." Noah looked confused. "What's a divorce?" he asked. "It means Mommy and Daddy won't be married anymore," I explained gently. "We'll still both love you very much, and we'll both take care of you. But we won't live in the same house anymore." Lily started to cry, silent tears streaming down her face. "But why?" she asked. "Don't you love Daddy anymore?" I hugged her close, feeling my own tears fall. "I'll always care about Daddy, Lily, because he's your father. But sometimes grown-ups stop loving each other in the way that husbands and wives should. Daddy and I have grown apart, and we think it would be better for everyone if we lived separately." Noah started to cry then, his little body shaking with sobs. "But I want Daddy to live here," he wailed. "I want us to be a family." I held both children close, my heart breaking at their pain. "I know, sweetie," I whispered, kissing his forehead. "I know this is hard, but Daddy and I will both still love you, and we'll both still be part of your lives. We'll always be your family, even if we don't all live in the same house." We sat together for a long time, crying and talking, answering their questions as honestly as I could. It was one of the most difficult conversations of my life, but it was necessary. the first step in helping them understand and accept the changes that were coming. Chapter 6. The Legal Battle. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Marcus, through his lawyer, contested the division of assets, claiming his income was essential to maintaining the children's lifestyle. He fought for custody, arguing that my job as a curator required irregular hours and travel. Margaret was formidable. She presented evidence of Marcus's affair, his absences from home, his focus on his career over his family. She highlighted my stability, my involvement in the children's lives, the home I'd maintained for 15 years. The breaking point came during mediation. Marcus sat across the table from me, his eyes red-rimmed. "Eleanor, please, the children need their father. I made a mistake, but I'm trying to make things right." "A mistake?" I replied, my voice trembling with rage. "You had a months-long affair with your nurse, lied to me repeatedly, and only stopped because you got caught. That's not a mistake, Marcus. That's a pattern of deception that shows your true character." The mediator intervened, but the damage was done. Marcus's lawyer proposed a settlement that would leave me financially secure. I signed the papers with a steady hand, feeling nothing but relief when it was over. Mediation drama, detailed scene. The mediation room was cold and sterile, designed to encourage rational discussion, but feeling more like an interrogation chamber. Marcus sat across from me, flanked by his lawyer, Robert Hayes, a sharp-dressed shark known for aggressive tactics. I had Margaret beside me, her presence a comforting anchor in the storm of emotions. Robert opened the discussion. My client acknowledges that the marriage has irretrievably broken down. However, he contests the characterization that this was solely his fault. Mrs. Thorne was often distant, focused on her career, neglecting her husband's emotional needs. Margaret's response was immediate and surgical. "With all due respect, that's absurd." Mrs. Thorne supported Dr. Thorne through medical school and residency, raised their children primarily on her own while he built his career, and maintained a home and family that allowed him to focus on his professional success. To characterize her as distant is not only inaccurate but insulting. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I never said Eleanor was a bad wife," he interjected. "I just meant that we grew apart. That happens in long marriages." "Growing apart is one thing," Margaret countered. "Having an affair with your nurse is another. Especially when that nurse is young enough to be your daughter. Especially when you lie about it for months. Especially when you only stop because you get caught." Robert tried a different tactic. Dr. Thorne's income is essential to maintaining the children's lifestyle. He should have primary custody with generous visitation rights for Mrs. Thorne. Margaret laughed, a harsh sound that filled the sterile room. "You want the man who abandoned his family for his nurse to have primary custody? The man who lied to his wife for months? The man who put his own desires above his children's stability? That's not going to happen." Marcus leaned forward, his eyes pleading. "Eleanor, please, the children need their father. I made a mistake, but I'm trying to make things right." I looked at Marcus, at the man I had loved for 15 years, the father of my children, the man who had betrayed me in the most painful way possible. The anger I'd been holding back finally broke through. "A mistake?" I replied, my voice trembling with rage. "You had a months-long affair with your nurse, lied to me repeatedly, and only stopped because you got caught. That's not a mistake, Marcus. That's a pattern of deception that shows your true character." Marcus flinched as if I'd slapped him. "That's not fair." "Fair?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "You want to talk about fair? Was it fair to lie to me every day? Was it fair to bring your mistress to our favorite restaurants? Was it fair to spend our money on hotel rooms with her? Was it fair to destroy our family, break your children's hearts, shatter the life we built together? The mediator intervened. Mrs. Thorne, please. No, I said, standing up. I'm done. I'm done listening to him justify his betrayal. Done listening to his lawyer attack me. Done pretending that this is anything other than what it is. Marcus chose his nurse over his family. He made his choice, and now he has to live with the consequences. I turned to Margaret. Let's go. I'm not sitting here for another minute of this. As we walked out of the mediation room, Marcus called after me, Eleanor, please. I didn't turn back. I kept walking, my head held high, my heart breaking, but my resolve firm. The marriage was over. Now it was time to build a new life for me and my children. Financial settlement, detailed terms. The financial settlement was complex, reflecting the substantial assets Marcus and I had accumulated during our 15-year marriage. Division of assets. The house would be sold, with proceeds split 60-40 in my favor. Marcus would keep his retirement accounts. One, $5 million. I would keep mine, $400,000. Investments, $800,000, would be split equally. Marcus would buy out my share of his medical practice partnership, $500,000. I would keep the art collection, $300,000, and jewelry, $200,000. Alimony. Marcus would pay me $15,000 per month in alimony for 10 years, or until I remarried, whichever came first. Child support. Marcus would pay $5,000 per month in child support, plus $50,000 of all uninsured medical, dental, and educational expenses for the children. Custody. I would have primary physical custody, with Marcus having visitation every other weekend, one evening per week, and alternating holidays. Legal custody would be joint, with both of us having input on major decisions regarding the children's upbringing. Life insurance. Marcus would maintain a $2 million life insurance policy with the children as beneficiaries. Retirement. Marcus would continue to contribute to my retirement account at the rate of $1,000 per month until I turned 65. The settlement was generous, reflecting Marcus's substantial income as a neurosurgeon and the length of our marriage. Margaret had negotiated fiercely, ensuring that I would be able to maintain a comfortable lifestyle for myself and the children. When I signed the final papers, I felt a mix of emotions, relief that the legal battle was over, sadness that it had come to this, anger at Marcus for forcing this outcome, and a glimmer of hope for the future. Emotional impact of legal process deepened. The legal battle took an enormous emotional toll, extending far beyond the initial betrayal. Exhaustion, the constant meetings with lawyers, the gathering of evidence, the court appearances, it was physically and mentally draining. I felt like I was running a marathon, with no end in sight. Anger. Each time Marcus or his lawyer minimized his betrayal, each time they tried to shift blame to me, each time they fought for assets or custody, my anger flared anew. This anger was exhausting, consuming, leaving little room for other emotions. Anxiety. The uncertainty of the legal process was paralyzing. Would I get enough alimony to support myself and the children? Would Marcus fight for custody? How would this affect the children? The anxiety was constant, a low-grade hum of fear that never quite went away. Grief. The legal process forced me to confront the death of my marriage over and over again. Each document, each meeting, each court appearance was a reminder of what I had lost, what had been taken from me. Shame. Despite knowing Marcus was the one who had betrayed me, I couldn't help feeling shame about the divorce. What had I done wrong? Why wasn't I enough? How had I failed to see the signs of his affair? Isolation. The legal process was isolating. While friends and family offered support, they couldn't truly understand what I was going through. I felt alone in my pain, alone in my fight for my future and my children's well-being. The emotional impact was profound and lasting, leaving scars that would take years to heal, if they ever fully did. Chapter 7. The professional fallout. Marcus's professional life continued to unravel. The hospital launched an investigation into his relationship with Clara, citing violations of their fraternization policy. Clara resigned rather than face disciplinary action, but the damage to Marcus's reputation was already done. Several prominent physicians who had referred patients to Marcus withdrew their support. A lucrative research partnership he'd been pursuing fell through when his collaborators expressed concerns about his judgment. Even his position as chief of neurosurgery was in jeopardy. I watched from a distance, a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. The man I had married, the brilliant surgeon I had admired, was destroying his career with the same recklessness he had shown in our marriage. One afternoon, I ran into Dr. Richardson, the hospital's chief of medicine, at a charity event. "I'm sorry about everything, Eleanor," he said, his expression genuine. "Marcus was one of our best, but this is beyond the pale. The board is considering disciplinary action." I nodded, not sure what to say. Part of me wanted to defend Marcus, to remind them of the lives he'd saved, the contributions he'd made. But another part of me, the part that had been betrayed and humiliated, remained silent. Hospital investigation. Detailed process. The hospital's investigation into Marcus's conduct was thorough and unforgiving. Dr. Richardson, the chief of medicine, appointed a committee to review the situation. Evidence collection. The committee gathered evidence of Marcus's relationship with Clara phone records, credit card statements, eyewitness accounts from colleagues who had seen them together outside of work. Policy review. They examined the hospital's fraternization policy, which explicitly prohibited romantic relationships between physicians and nurses in the same department, especially when one had supervisory authority over the other. Interviews. Committee members interviewed Marcus, Clara, and other staff members who had worked with them. Marcus admitted to the relationship, but claimed it had only recently become romantic. Clara, facing potential disciplinary action, resigned before her interview. Impact assessment. The committee assessed the impact of Marcus's conduct on the hospital, damage to its reputation, potential legal liability, effects on staff morale, and patient care. Recommendations. The committee recommended that Marcus be removed from his position as chief of neurosurgery, suspended for 3 months without pay, and required to complete ethics training before returning to clinical duties. The hospital board accepted the recommendations, and Marcus was formally notified of the disciplinary action. The news spread quickly through the medical community, further damaging his reputation. Professional consequences. Expanded impact. The fallout from Marcus's affair extended far beyond the hospital's disciplinary action. Loss of referrals. Several prominent physicians who had regularly referred patients to Marcus withdrew their support. Dr. Evans, a cardiologist who had sent Marcus dozens of patients each year, sent a formal letter terminating their referral relationship. "I can no longer, in good conscience, refer my patients to someone who has shown such poor judgment," he wrote. Research partnership collapse. A lucrative research partnership Marcus had been pursuing with a pharmaceutical company fell through when the company's ethics committee expressed concerns about his judgment. "We cannot associate our research with someone who has engaged in such unethical behavior," their letter stated. Speaking engagements canceled. Marcus had been scheduled to speak at several major medical conferences. Each organization canceled his appearance, citing recent events that make his participation inappropriate. Medical journal article. Withdrawn. An article Marcus had written for a prestigious neurosurgery journal was withdrawn at the last minute. The editor explained that they could not publish work by someone who had violated the the ethical standards of the medical profession. Hospital privileges threatened. Several hospitals where Marcus had admitting privileges began reviewing his status. 2 placed him on probation, requiring him to have a senior physician supervise his cases for 6 months. Reputation damage. Perhaps most damaging was the hit to Marcus's professional reputation. In the tight-knit medical community, news of his affair and its consequences spread quickly. Whispers followed him in hospital corridors, colleagues avoided him in the cafeteria, and patients began requesting other surgeons. The professional consequences were severe and far-reaching, threatening not just Marcus's current position, but his entire career trajectory. My reaction: complex emotions. Watching Marcus's professional downfall from a distance evoked complex emotions. Satisfaction. There was a part of me that felt satisfied seeing Marcus face consequences for his actions. He had betrayed me, destroyed our family, and now he was paying the price professionally. It felt like justice. Sadness. Despite everything, I felt sadness watching Marcus's career crumble. I had watched him work so hard to build his reputation, to achieve his dreams. Seeing it all fall apart was painful, even if he had brought it on himself. Guilt. Sometimes I felt guilty for my satisfaction. Marcus was still the father of my children, still a brilliant surgeon who had saved countless lives. Did he deserve to lose everything because of one mistake? Fear. I worried about how Marcus's professional downfall would affect the children. Would they hear about it at school? Would it damage their relationship with their father? Would it affect their own sense of self-worth? Indifference. Other times, I felt a profound indifference to Marcus's professional struggles. He had made his choices, and now he had to live with the consequences. My focus was on the children and on rebuilding my own life. The complexity of these emotions was exhausting, a constant internal debate that left me feeling drained and conflicted. Chapter 8. The personal rebuilding. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life and my children's sense of security. I threw myself into my work at the museum, curating an ambitious exhibition on feminist art that became a critical and popular success. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage, women who had their own careers and families, who understood the challenges of balancing personal and professional lives. We gathered for dinners, wine nights, weekend outings with our children, creating a new community of support. I also started therapy with Dr. Aisha Sharma, a compassionate woman who helped me navigate the complex emotions of betrayal and divorce. The pain you're feeling is not just about the affair, she explained. It's about the death of the future you imagined, the loss of trust in your own judgment. The children gradually adjusted to our new normal. Lily threw herself into her art, creating paintings that expressed her feelings about the divorce in ways she couldn't verbalize. Noah started therapy to process his confusion and sadness. Slowly, our little family found a new rhythm, a new way of being together. Therapy journey, detailed sessions, my work with Dr. Aisha Sharma became a cornerstone of my healing process. Her office was a sanctuary of calm and understanding, a place where I could explore the complex emotions of betrayal and divorce without judgment. Our first session was difficult. I sat rigidly on her couch, my hands clenched in my lap, unable to look at her. "I don't know why I'm here," I said, my voice tight. "Marcus is the one who cheated. He's the one who should be in therapy." Aisha nodded, her expression compassionate. "Betrayal trauma is profound, Eleanor. It affects not just your emotions, but your physical health, your sense of self, your ability to trust. Therapy can help you process these effects." Over the weeks that followed, we explored many aspects of my experience. Grief. "You're grieving multiple losses," Aisha explained. "The loss of your marriage, the loss of the future you imagined, the loss of trust in Marcus, the loss of trust in your own judgment. Anger. Your anger is valid, Aisha said. Marcus betrayed you in the most painful way possible. But anger can become toxic if it's not processed healthily. Shame. Many women in your situation feel shame, Aisha noted, as if the betrayal reflects on them somehow. But this is about Marcus's choices, not your worth. Identity crisis. For 15 years, you defined yourself as Marcus's wife, as part of a couple. Now you're rediscovering who you are as an individual. Trust issues. It's natural to have trouble trusting after betrayal, Aisha acknowledged. But not all people are like Marcus. Not all relationships end in heartbreak. Parenting challenges. Divorce affects children deeply, Aisha said. Your job is to provide stability, reassurance, and love as they navigate this difficult transition. Each session brought new insights, new understanding, new tools for healing. Aisha didn't offer quick fixes or easy answers, but she provided a safe space for me to explore my pain and begin the process of rebuilding. Reconnecting with friends? Expanded community. The divorce forced me to reevaluate my social circle, to distinguish between true friends and acquaintances who had been part of the thorn package. This process was painful, but ultimately liberating. Sarah, my college roommate, now a successful lawyer, had been my rock through the divorce. She dropped everything to be with me after Marcus left, bringing meals, watching the children, listening without judgment. Our friendship deepened through this crisis, becoming a source of strength and support. Michael, Sarah's husband, a pediatrician, became an unexpected ally. He helped me navigate medical issues with the children, offered advice about co-parenting with Marcus, and became a father figure of sorts to Lily and Noah. Jennifer. A fellow curator at the museum, Jennifer had been a colleague, but not a close friend before the divorce. She reached out after the news broke, offering support and understanding. As single mothers ourselves, we bonded over shared experiences, and our friendship grew stronger. Rachel. A neighbor I'd known casually, Rachel became a close friend after the divorce. She'd gone through her own divorce 5 years earlier and understood the challenges I was facing. We walked together in the mornings, our children playing nearby, sharing stories and advice. New connections. Through therapy and support groups, I met other women navigating divorce. These new connections provided understanding and validation that friends from my married life couldn't offer. This rebuilt community became a crucial support system, providing practical help, emotional support, and a sense of belonging during a time of profound change. Children's adjustment, detailed progress. Watching Lily and Noah adjust to the divorce was heartbreaking, but ultimately inspiring. Their resilience amazed me. Lily, 10. Initially, Lily withdrew, becoming quiet and introspective. She spent hours in her room, painting furiously dark, angry images that reflected her pain. Gradually, through therapy and my gentle encouragement, she began to express her feelings verbally. "I'm mad at Daddy," she said one evening, "but I miss him too." This complexity of emotion was healthy, a sign that she was processing the divorce in her own way. By 6 months post-divorce, Lily had found a new balance maintaining her relationship with Marcus while thriving in our new family structure. Noah, 7. Noah's adjustment was more challenging. He regressed behaviorally, having accidents at night, throwing tantrums, struggling in school. His therapist suggested art therapy, and Noah discovered a love for sculpting, working with clay to express emotions he couldn't verbalize. "This is Daddy being mean to Mommy," he explained, showing me a sculpture of 2 figures, one larger than the other, pushing the smaller one away. Gradually, with consistency and love, Noah's behavior improved. He developed a routine with Marcus's visitation, finding security in the predictability of their time together. Co-parenting challenges. Navigating co-parenting with Marcus was difficult. We had different parenting styles, different rules, different expectations. The children often played us against each other, testing boundaries. Through mediation and therapy, Marcus and I developed a co-parenting agreement that prioritized the children's needs over our conflicts. We used a shared calendar app to coordinate schedules, communicated primarily through text to avoid conflict, and attended monthly co-parenting counseling sessions. New family dynamics. Our new family structure took time to settle into. The children learned to navigate two homes, two sets of rules, two different ways of doing things. There were meltdowns, tears, and frustrations, but gradually, a new normal emerged. Our little family, just the three of us, found its own rhythm, its own traditions, its own version of happiness. Watching my children adapt and thrive despite the divorce was one of the most rewarding aspects of this difficult journey. Their resilience gave me hope. Their love sustained me, and their happiness became my highest priority. Chapter 9. The Unexpected Encounter. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Clara at a coffee shop near the museum. She looked different, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes. The vibrant confidence I remembered replaced by a nervous energy. "Eleanor," she said, her voice tentative, "can we talk for a minute?" I hesitated, then nodded. We sat at a corner table, the silence between us thick with unspoken history. "I wanted to apologize," Clara said, her eyes downcast. "For everything. For hurting you. For destroying your marriage. I was infatuated with Marcus. He was charming, powerful, and I was flattered by his attention. I never meant to fall in love with him." I studied her face, seeing the regret and pain there. "Did you know he was married?" I asked quietly. "Of course," she replied, tears welling. "But I told myself it was different, that your marriage was already over. That was a lie I told myself to justify what I was doing." "What happened after you left the hospital?" I asked, surprising myself with my curiosity. Clara sighed. "I couldn't find another nursing position. No one wants to hire the nurse who had an affair with a married surgeon. Marcus and we tried to make it work, but it was built on such selfishness, such hurt. We broke up 2 months ago." I didn't feel satisfaction at her words, only a profound sadness for the damage we had all suffered, me, Marcus, Clara, and most of all, my children. "I hope you find your way forward," I said finally, standing to leave. Clara looked up, her eyes meeting mine. "I hope you do too, Eleanor. You deserve happiness." As I walked away, I felt a small measure of peace. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of letting go. Clara's perspective. Detailed backstory. The encounter with Clara revealed a side of the story I hadn't considered: her own pain, regret, and downfall. Over coffee, she shared details that complicated my understanding of the affair. Her background. Clara had grown up in foster care, bouncing from home to home until she aged out of the system at 18. She'd put herself through nursing school, working 3 jobs to make ends meet. "I never had a stable family," she explained. "When Marcus showed interest in me, treated me like I was special. It was intoxicating." The manipulation. Marcus had been careful, calculated in his pursuit of Clara. He started with small compliments about her nursing skills, then invitations to coffee to discuss cases, then dinners to celebrate successful surgeries. "He made me feel seen, valued," Clara said. "I told myself it was professional mentorship, but I knew it was more. I just didn't want to admit it." The isolation. As their relationship progressed, Marcus had isolated Clara from her friends, from other colleagues, even from me. He'd say things like, "No one understands you like I do," or "Eleanor doesn't appreciate you the way I do," Clara recalled. I started believing him. The guilt. Clara had struggled with guilt from the beginning. "I knew about you, about the children," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Every time we were together, I felt sick with guilt. But Marcus would reassure me, tell me our love was special, that you and he were already separated in all but name." The fallout. After the affair became public, Clara's life had collapsed. She'd lost her job, her reputation, her professional network. "No hospital will touch me," she said. "I've applied to dozens of nursing positions. They all say the same thing. We can't hire someone with your history." The relationship with Marcus. Their relationship had deteriorated quickly once it was no longer secret. The guilt ate away at us, Clara admitted. We fought constantly. He blamed me for his professional downfall. I blamed him for ruining my career. There was no trust, no foundation to build on. Listening to Clara's story didn't excuse her actions, but it humanized her. I saw her not as the villain of my story, but as a complex, flawed person who had made terrible choices and was now paying the price. My reaction. Complex emotions. The encounter with Clara evoked a complex mix of emotions. Anger. Despite her remorse, I still felt anger at Clara for her role in destroying my marriage. She had known Marcus was married, known about me and the children, yet she had chosen to pursue the relationship anyway. Sadness. Listening to Clara describe her difficult childhood, her isolation, her regret, I felt a profound sadness for the pain she had experienced and caused. Understanding. As Clara shared details of how Marcus had manipulated her, I began to understand the dynamics of their relationship. It didn't excuse her choices, but it provided context that complicated my black and white view of the situation. Empathy. When Clara described losing her job, her reputation, her professional future, I felt a flicker of empathy. She was paying a high price for her mistakes, just as Marcus was. Forgiveness. I didn't forgive Clara that day, but I felt the beginning of something like forgiveness, not excusing her actions, but releasing the anger and resentment that had been poisoning me. "I hope you find your way forward," I said, meaning it. Closure. As I walked away from the coffee shop, I felt a sense of closure. Not closure on the marriage or the betrayal, but closure on this chapter of the story. Clara was no longer a mysterious villain in my narrative. She was a flawed human being who had made terrible choices and was now facing the consequences. The encounter with Clara didn't erase the pain of the betrayal, but it did add complexity to my understanding of what had happened. It was a step toward healing, toward letting go of the anger that had been holding me captive. Chapter 10. The New Beginning. A year after D-Day, as I'd come to call it, I stood in the gallery of the museum, surrounded by the feminist art exhibition I had curated. The opening was a success, critics praising my vision and curatorial choices. Friends and colleagues surrounded me, their support a warm blanket around my shoulders. Lily and Noah were there, proud of their mother, their earlier pain softened by time and stability. Lily had even contributed a piece to the exhibition, a painting called New Beginnings, that showed a phoenix rising from flames. As I looked around the room, at the art, at the people who had supported me through the darkest time of my life, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The betrayal had shattered my world, but in rebuilding, I had discovered a strength I never knew I possessed. I had found my voice, my purpose, my independence. Marcus was still in my life as the father of my children, but the romantic love I had once felt for him had transformed into something more complicated: respect for his abilities as a surgeon, gratitude for the children we had created together, but no longer the all-consuming passion I had once mistaken for love. That evening, as I tucked the children into bed, Lily looked up at me. "Mom, are you happy now?" I considered her question carefully. "I'm getting there," I said honestly. "Happiness isn't something that happens all at once. It's something we build, piece by piece, choice by choice." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "Like your exhibition?" "Exactly," I said, kissing her forehead. "Like my exhibition." As I turned out the light, I thought about the journey that had brought me to this moment through betrayal and heartbreak, through anger and grief, to this place of rebuilding and hope. The scars remained, but they had become part of my story, part of who I was now, stronger, wiser, more authentic than the woman who had believed in perfect love and perfect lives. And that, I realized, was more than enough. Exhibition success, detailed impact. The feminist art exhibition exceeded all expectations, becoming a defining moment in my career and a catalyst for personal healing. Critical acclaim. Critics praised the exhibition's bold vision and scholarly rigor. The New York Times called it a groundbreaking exploration of feminist art that challenges traditional narratives and centers women's voices. Art Forum described it as essential viewing for anyone interested in the intersection of art, politics, and gender. Popular success, attendance broke records for the museum, with visitors traveling from across the country to see the exhibition. The museum extended its run twice, and it ultimately stayed open for 6 months instead of the planned 3. Professional recognition. The exhibition brought me numerous accolades, including the Curatorial Excellence Award from the American Association of Museums and a feature in Art News magazine as one of the 50 most influential people in the art world. Personal impact. Curating the exhibition had been deeply therapeutic. Selecting art that explored themes of female strength, resilience, and healing had helped me process my own experience. Working with artists who had overcome adversity inspired me to keep moving forward. Community building. The exhibition became a gathering place for women navigating their own challenges. I received countless emails from visitors who shared how the art had resonated with them, helped them feel less alone in their struggles. Lily's contribution, Lily's painting, New Beginnings, became one of the exhibition's most popular pieces. It depicted a phoenix rising from flames, vibrant colors emerging from darkness. Visitors often stopped to admire it, moved by the raw emotion and hope in the young artist's work. Lily's confidence soared as she received recognition for her talent, a bright spot in a difficult year. Children's growth, detailed development. A year after the divorce, Lily and Noah had shown remarkable growth and resilience. Lily, 11. Lily had flourished in the past year. Her art had become more sophisticated, exploring complex emotions and themes. She had won a regional art competition and was invited to participate in a young artists program at the museum. Academically, she continued to excel, maintaining straight A's while participating in the school's art club and debate team. Her relationship with Marcus had stabilized into something healthy. She enjoyed her time with him, but no longer felt responsible for his happiness or their relationship. Noah, 8. Noah had made significant progress in therapy. His behavioral issues had resolved, and he was thriving in school. He had discovered a love for science, particularly astronomy, and spent hours with his telescope, mapping constellations and learning about planets. His relationship with Marcus had improved too. They bonded over shared interests in science and nature, going on weekend hikes and visits to the planetarium. Sibling bond. Perhaps most heartwarming was the bond that had developed between Lily and Noah. They had become each other's champions, supporting one another through the challenges of the divorce. Lily helped Noah with homework. Noah comforted Lily when she missed Marcus, and they created their own rituals and traditions that gave them stability and security. Co-parenting. Success. Marcus and I had developed a functional co-parenting relationship. We communicated primarily through a shared app, coordinated schedules efficiently, and presented a united front on important issues affecting the children. We attended parent-teacher conferences together, celebrated birthdays as a family, and supported the children's activities without conflict. Watching my children thrive despite the divorce was one of the greatest joys of my life. Their resilience, their love for each other, and their ability to find happiness in our new family structure gave me hope for the future. Personal reflection. Deepened insights. As I stood in the gallery surrounded by the art I had curated, the people who supported me, and the children who gave my life meaning, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this moment. Strength in vulnerability. The past year had taught me that true strength comes not from avoiding vulnerability, but from embracing it. By allowing myself to feel the pain of betrayal, to grieve the loss of my marriage, to seek help when I needed it, I had discovered a resilience I never knew I possessed. The complexity of love. My feelings about Marcus had evolved into something complex and nuanced. I no longer felt the all-consuming romantic love I had once mistaken for the entirety of love. Instead, I felt a complicated mix of emotions, gratitude for the children we had created together, respect for his abilities as a surgeon and father, sadness for the pain he had caused, and a quiet release of the anger that had once consumed me. The meaning of family. My understanding of family had expanded and deepened. Family wasn't just about biology or marriage. It was about love, support, commitment, and choice. My little family, just me, Lily, and Noah, was complete and whole, even without Marcus in our daily lives. The power of art. Curating the feminist art exhibition had been more than a professional achievement. It had been a form of healing. The art I selected spoke to women's experiences of pain, resilience, and transformation themes that resonated deeply with my own journey. Through art, I had found a way to process my experience and connect with others who understood. The future. As I looked toward the future, I felt not fear but excitement. The betrayal had shattered my old life, but in rebuilding, I had created something new, something authentic, something strong, something entirely my own. The future was unwritten, full of possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see what came next. The scars of betrayal remained, but they had become part of my story, part of who I was now, stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more fully myself. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift of this painful, transformative journey. Chapter 11. The exhibition's success. The feminist art exhibition exceeded all expectations. It drew record crowds to the museum, was featured in major art publications, and even caught the attention of the National Arts Council. I received invitations to speak at conferences and universities, sharing my curatorial vision and the stories behind the pieces I had selected. One afternoon, I received a call from the director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They were planning a major exhibition on women artists and wanted me to consult on the project. "Your work at St. Vincent's has been groundbreaking," the director said. "We'd be honored to have your expertise." The opportunity was thrilling, a chance to work at one of the world's most prestigious museums, to collaborate with curators and artists I had long admired. It was also a chance to prove to myself that I could succeed on my own terms, that my career was not merely an appendage to Marcus's. I accepted immediately, throwing myself into the project with renewed passion. The work was demanding long hours, extensive research, constant collaboration, but it was also exhilarating. For the first time in years, I felt fully alive, fully myself. Metropolitan Museum opportunity. Detailed process. The call from the Metropolitan Museum of Art came on a Tuesday afternoon as I was reviewing installation plans for the feminist art exhibition. The director, Dr. Elizabeth Chen, was direct and enthusiastic. "Eleanor, I've been following your work for years," she began. "Your feminist art exhibition has been revolutionary. The way you've centered women's voices, challenged traditional narratives, it's exactly what we're trying to do with our upcoming exhibition on women artists." "Thank you," I said, my heart racing. I'm a huge admirer of the Met's work. "We're planning a major retrospective on Miriam Schapiro," Dr. Chen continued. "She's a pivotal figure in feminist art, but her work has never received the comprehensive treatment it deserves. We'd like you to consult on the exhibition, help us select pieces, develop the curatorial vision, perhaps even contribute to the catalog." The opportunity was overwhelming. My dream job, offered at a time when I was rebuilding my life and career. "I'd be honored," I managed to say, my voice trembling with excitement. The consulting role evolved quickly into something more significant. As we worked together, Dr. Chen was impressed with my insights and my work ethic. "Eleanor, we'd like to offer you the position of lead curator for this exhibition," she said, 3 months into our collaboration. "Your vision, your expertise, your passion, they're exactly what this project needs." Accepting the position meant significant changes, relocating to New York temporarily, uprooting the children, navigating co-parenting with Marcus from a distance, but it was an opportunity I couldn't refuse. Relocation to New York. Detailed transition, moving to New York was both exhilarating and terrifying. The logistics were complex. Housing. I found a spacious apartment on the Upper West Side, close to Central Park, and the children's new schools. It was more expensive than our home in the city, but the museum provided a housing stipend that made it manageable. Schools. Researching and selecting schools for Lily and Noah became a major project. I wanted schools that would challenge them academically while providing the support they needed during this transition. We ended up choosing a progressive private school that emphasized arts education and emotional intelligence. Marcus's reaction. When I told Marcus about the opportunity, his reaction was surprisingly supportive. "This is amazing, Eleanor," he said. "Of course you should take it. We'll make the co-parenting work." His support was genuine, I could tell, and it made the transition easier. The move. The physical move was chaotic: packing, shipping, setting up a new home. But it was also cathartic, leaving behind the house where Marcus had betrayed me, starting fresh in a new city. Adjustment period. The first few months in New York were challenging. The children struggled with new schools, new friends, the absence of their familiar surroundings. I was overwhelmed by the demands of my new position, the logistics of single parenting in a new city, the emotional toll of the transition. Gradually, however, we found our rhythm. The children made friends, thrived in their new schools, fell in love with the city. I settled into my role at the Met, finding inspiration and purpose in the work. Marcus visited regularly, maintaining his relationship with the children, and we established a functional co-parenting routine despite the distance. Professional growth, detailed achievements. The Metropolitan Museum exhibition became a defining moment in my career, bringing recognition and opportunities I had never imagined. Critical acclaim. The Miriam Schapiro retrospective received rave reviews. The New York Times called it a revelatory exhibition that repositioned Schapiro as one of the most important artists of the 20th century. Art Forum praised the sophisticated curatorial vision that brought new understanding to Shapiro's work. Attendance records. The exhibition broke attendance records for the Met, drawing visitors from around the world. The museum extended its run twice, and it ultimately stayed open for 9 months. Educational impact. We developed an extensive educational program around the exhibition, including workshops for students, lectures for the public, and a digital archive that made Shapiro's work accessible globally. The program reached over 100,000 participants. Catalog contribution. I wrote the lead essay for the exhibition catalog, exploring Shapiro's role in the feminist art movement and her influence on contemporary artists. The essay was widely praised and cited in academic journals. Speaking engagements. The success of the exhibition led to invitations to speak at conferences and universities around the world. I gave talks on feminist art, curatorial practice, and the importance of women's voices in art history. Career advancement. Following the exhibition's success, I was offered a permanent position as curator of contemporary art at the Met. The role came with increased responsibility, a significant salary increase, and the opportunity to shape the museum's contemporary art collection for years to come. The professional growth was exhilarating, but more than that, it was healing. Through my work, I had found a new sense of purpose, a new identity beyond Marcus's wife or divorced mother. I was Eleanor Thorne, respected curator, influential voice in the art world, woman who had rebuilt her life on her own terms. Chapter 12. Marcus's downfall. While my career flourished, Marcus's continued to falter. The hospital's investigation concluded with a formal reprimand and a temporary suspension from his position as chief of neurosurgery. Several high-profile patients transferred to other physicians, and research funding for his projects dried up. The final blow came when a medical malpractice suit was filed against him. A former patient claimed that Marcus had operated on him while impaired, citing rumors of his affair and personal instability as evidence. The case was weak, but the damage to Marcus's reputation was severe. I heard about it from mutual friends, from snippets of conversation at social events. Part of me wanted to reach out, to offer support or at least express sympathy. But another part of me, the part that still carried the raw pain of his betrayal, remained silent. One evening, Marcus called me, his voice rough with emotion. "Eleanor, can we talk? It's about the children." I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a quiet cafe near the children's school. He looked terrible thin, with dark circles under his eyes. The confident surgeon I had married replaced by a man humbled by circumstances. "The medical board is investigating the malpractice suit," he said, stirring his coffee nervously. "If it goes against me, I could lose my license." I studied him, seeing the fear and regret in his eyes. "What do you want me to do, Marcus?" "Nothing," he said quickly. I thought you should know, in case it affects the children, if there's media attention." I nodded slowly. "I'll handle it if it comes to that. The children come first." Marcus looked down at his hands. "I never meant for any of this to happen, Eleanor. The affair, the fallout, I've ruined everything." The words hung between us, heavy with regret. I didn't offer forgiveness, wasn't ready to, but I didn't lash out either. "We all make choices, Marcus," I said finally. "We live with the consequences." Malpractice suit, detailed case. The medical malpractice suit against Marcus was a complex and devastating development in his already troubled professional life. The patient. The suit was filed by Robert Henderson, a 45-year-old businessman who had undergone brain surgery performed by Marcus 6 months after the affair became public. Henderson claimed that Marcus had been impaired during the surgery, leading to complications that left him with partial paralysis and cognitive deficits. The evidence. The evidence against Marcus was circumstantial but damaging. Testimony from hospital staff suggested that Marcus had been distracted and emotionally unstable in the months following the affair's discovery. Nurses reported that he had seemed preoccupied during surgeries, occasionally making uncharacteristic errors. While there was no direct evidence that Marcus had been under the influence of drugs or alcohol during Henderson's surgery, the timing of the complications occurring during a period when Marcus was under investigation for the affair created a damaging narrative. Legal strategy. Henderson's lawyer constructed a compelling case around Marcus's state of mind. They subpoenaed records of the hospital investigation into Marcus's affair, testimony from colleagues about his emotional state, and expert opinions on how emotional distress can affect surgical performance. The strategy was to portray Marcus as a surgeon whose personal turmoil had compromised his professional judgment. Media coverage. The case attracted significant media attention. Local news outlets ran stories about the fallen neurosurgeon, and medical blogs debated the ethics of holding physicians accountable for personal conduct. The coverage was sensationalized, focusing on the salacious details of the affair rather than the complex medical and legal issues at stake. Hospital response. St. Vincent's Medical Center placed Marcus on administrative leave pending the outcome of the suit. They issued a statement expressing confidence in Marcus's abilities, but acknowledging the seriousness of the allegations. The hospital's legal team worked to distance the institution from Marcus's personal conduct while still supporting him as a physician. Marcus's defense. Marcus's lawyer argued that the complications were a known risk of the procedure, not the result of impairment. They presented evidence of Marcus's surgical skill, his success rate with similar procedures, and testimony from colleagues who attested to his professionalism. They also highlighted the lack of direct evidence that Marcus had been impaired during the surgery. Settlement. Despite the weak evidence, Marcus's lawyer recommended settling the case to avoid the uncertainty and expense of a trial. The settlement was substantial. 2. $5 million paid to Henderson, with the hospital's insurance covering most of the cost. While the settlement wasn't an admission of guilt, it further damaged Marcus's reputation and career prospects. Professional consequences. Expanded impact. The malpractice suit and its aftermath had devastating consequences for Marcus's career. Loss of hospital privileges. Following the settlement, St. Vincent's revoked Marcus's surgical privileges. While they didn't fire him outright, they made it clear that he would not be welcome back in the operating room. Difficulty finding. New position. Marcus struggled to find a new position. Hospitals were reluctant to hire a surgeon with his history. The affair, the hospital investigation, the malpractice suit. Even hospitals that were initially interested withdrew their offers when the details of his past became known. Financial strain. Without a steady income, Marcus faced significant financial pressure. He had to sell our former home at a loss, liquidate investments, and downsize his lifestyle dramatically. The financial strain added to his emotional distress, creating a vicious cycle of stress and instability. Reputation damage. The combination of the affair, the hospital investigation, and the malpractice suit destroyed Marcus's professional reputation. In the tight-knit medical community, news travels fast, and Marcus became known as much for his personal failures as his professional achievements. Identity crisis. The loss of his career created an identity crisis for Marcus. He had defined himself for so long as a brilliant neurosurgeon, a leader in his field. Without that identity, he struggled to find purpose and meaning in his life. Impact on children. The professional fallout affected Marcus's relationship with the children. They saw his distress, his financial struggles, his loss of confidence. While he tried to shield them from the worst of it, they were perceptive enough to know that something was wrong. My response: complex emotions. Hearing about Marcus's professional downfall evoked a complex mix of emotions. Sadness. Despite everything, I felt sad watching Marcus's career crumble. I had known him as a brilliant, dedicated surgeon who had saved countless lives. Seeing that part of him destroyed was painful, even if he had brought it on himself. Anger. I still felt anger at Marcus for the choices that had led to this point. His betrayal, his lies, his recklessness. His professional downfall was a direct consequence of his actions, and part of me felt that he deserved what he was getting. Guilt. Sometimes I felt guilty for my lack of sympathy. Marcus was still the father of my children, still a human being suffering. Shouldn't I feel more compassion for his pain, concern for children? My primary concern was how Marcus's professional struggles would affect the children. I worried about them seeing their father in distress, about the impact on their relationship with him, about the long-term effects on their emotional well-being. Indifference. Other times, I felt a profound indifference to Marcus's problems. He had made his choices, and now he had to live with the consequences. My focus was on the children and on my own life, not on salvaging his career or his happiness. Acceptance. Gradually, I reached a place of acceptance about Marcus's situation. I couldn't change what had happened, couldn't fix his problems, couldn't undo the damage. All I could do was support the children through this difficult transition and focus on my own life and career. The complexity of these emotions was exhausting, a constant internal debate that left me feeling drained and conflicted. But over time, I learned to accept the complexity, to hold all these emotions without letting any single one dominate. Chapter 13. The New Relationship. Through my work on the Met exhibition, I met Daniel Chen, a brilliant art historian with a sharp mind and a gentle spirit. We collaborated on several aspects of the exhibition, finding an easy intellectual compatibility that gradually evolved into something more. Daniel was different from Marcus in every way. Thoughtful where Marcus had been impulsive, collaborative where Marcus had been autocratic, emotionally available where Marcus had been distant. He admired my career, respected my intelligence, and seemed genuinely interested in my thoughts and feelings. Our relationship developed slowly, intentionally. We spent hours talking about art, about our shared passion for bringing cultural understanding to the world. He met Lily and Noah, treating them with kindness and respect, never trying to replace their father, but simply adding another caring adult to their lives. 6 months after we met, Daniel took me to a small gallery in Chelsea. As we looked at the paintings, he turned to me, his expression serious. "Eleanor, I've fallen in love with you. I know you've been through so much, and I don't expect anything, but I needed you to know how I feel." Tears welled in my eyes. "I love you too, Daniel," I whispered. I was afraid to admit it, even to myself. He took my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "We can take this as slowly as you need. There's no rush." In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope, not just for my career or my children, but for my own heart, for the possibility of love rebuilt on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. Daniel's character. Detailed background. Daniel Chen was a complex, multifaceted man who brought new dimensions to my life. Professional background. Daniel was a respected art historian, specializing in contemporary Asian art. He had taught at Columbia University for 15 years, published several influential books, and curated exhibitions at museums around the world. His reputation in the art world was impeccable, built on scholarly rigor and innovative thinking. Personal history. Daniel had been married once before, to a fellow academic. Their marriage had ended amicably after 10 years when they realized they wanted different things. She wanted to move to Europe to pursue research opportunities. He wanted to stay in New York. They remained friends, and Daniel spoke of her with warmth and respect. Personality. Daniel was thoughtful and introspective, with a dry sense of humor that emerged once he felt comfortable. He was an excellent listener, genuinely interested in others' perspectives and experiences. Unlike Marcus, who often dominated conversations, Daniel asked questions and truly listened to the answers. Values. Daniel valued intellectual curiosity, emotional honesty, and mutual respect in relationships. He was passionate about art, not just as an academic subject, but as a force for social change and cultural understanding. Relationship with children. Daniel had no children of his own, but was warm and natural, with Lily and Noah. He never tried to replace Marcus or compete for their affection. Instead, he met them where they were, engaging with their interests, respecting their boundaries, and gradually building a relationship based on trust and mutual respect. Approach to conflict. Unlike Marcus, who avoided conflict or became defensive, Daniel approached disagreements with curiosity and openness. He was willing to admit when he was wrong, to apologize sincerely, and to work through issues collaboratively. Relationship development. Detailed timeline. My relationship with Daniel developed slowly, intentionally, building a foundation of trust and mutual respect. Initial connection. We met during the planning stages of the Miriam Shapiro exhibition. Daniel was consulting on the historical context of Shapiro's work, and I was leading the curatorial team. Our first meeting was professional, but charged with intellectual chemistry. Intellectual collaboration. As we worked together on the exhibition, we discovered a shared passion for feminist art and a complementary approach to curatorial work. Our collaboration was easy and productive, with each of us challenging and inspiring the other. Personal connection. Gradually, our conversations expanded beyond work. We talked about our lives, our histories, our hopes for the future. Daniel was open about his divorce, his experiences with relationships, his desire to find a partner who shared his values and passions. First date. 3 months after we met, Daniel asked me to dinner. We went to a small Italian restaurant in the West Village, talking for hours about art, travel, our families. The conversation flowed easily, and I felt a connection I hadn't experienced in years. Meeting the children. After 6 months of dating, Daniel met Lily and Noah. I was nervous about how they would react, but Daniel was patient and respectful. He brought Lily a book about women artists and Noah a model of the solar system, gifts that showed he had paid attention to their interests. Building trust. Over the next several months, Daniel consistently demonstrated his trustworthiness and commitment. He was reliable, honest, and emotionally available. He respected my boundaries, supported my career, and embraced the children as part of my life. Declaration of love. After a year of dating, Daniel declared his love. His declaration was sincere, vulnerable, and without pressure. "I love you, Eleanor," he said. Not because of who you are professionally or what you've accomplished, but because of who you are. Kind, intelligent, resilient, passionate. I love you completely. Moving forward. After I reciprocated his feelings, we discussed the future openly and honestly. We talked about my children, about Marcus's role in their lives, about the pace at which we wanted to move forward. Daniel was patient and understanding, never rushing me or pressuring me to define the relationship before I was ready. Impact on children. Detailed integration. Daniel's integration into our lives was gradual and thoughtful, always prioritizing the children's well-being. Lily's reaction. Initially, Lily was reserved with Daniel. She had been hurt by Marcus's abandonment and was wary of another adult entering our lives. Daniel respected her boundaries, engaging with her on her terms, discussing art, helping with homework, listening to her stories about school. Gradually, Lily warmed to him, appreciating his intelligence and kindness. By 6 months into our relationship, she was seeking him out to share her art projects and ask for advice. Noah's response. Noah, younger and more adaptable, took to Daniel more quickly. Daniel shared Noah's interest in science, taking him to the planetarium, helping him with his telescope, discussing space and astronomy. Noah began looking forward to Daniel's visits, seeing him as a friend and mentor as well as my partner. Co-parenting with Marcus. Daniel was careful never to overstep his role or interfere with Marcus's relationship with the children. He supported my co-parenting efforts, encouraged the children's relationship with their father, and never tried to replace Marcus in their lives. Creating new traditions. Together, we established new traditions that included Daniel's Sunday morning brunches, monthly museum visits, holiday celebrations that blended our families. These traditions helped the children feel secure in our new family structure. Emotional security. Daniel's consistent presence and reliability provided emotional security for the children. They knew they could count on him, that he would be there for them, that his love for me extended to them as well. Communication. Daniel and I maintained open communication about the children, how they were adjusting, what they needed, how to support them through the transition. This communication helped us navigate challenges and ensure the children's well-being remained our top priority. Watching Daniel build relationships with Lily and Noah was one of the most rewarding aspects of our relationship. He wasn't replacing their father, but he was becoming an important part of their lives, a caring adult who loved them, supported them, and added richness to their world. Chapter 14. The Co-Parenting Challenge. Marcus's situation continued to deteriorate. The medical board's investigation concluded with a suspension of his license for 6 months, effectively ending his career at St. Vincent's. The malpractice suit was settled out of court, but the financial cost was substantial. Through it all, Marcus remained involved in the children's lives, picking them up for visits, attending their school events, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy for their sake. But his emotional state was fragile, his anger and depression sometimes boiling over inappropriately. One afternoon, Noah came home from a visit with Marcus in tears. "Daddy was yelling at someone on the phone," he said, climbing into my lap. He scared me. I held him close, my heart aching for my little boy. "Daddy's going through a hard time right now," I said gently. "But it's not your job to worry about that. You're safe here." That night I called Marcus. "We need to talk about your visits with the children," I said, my voice firm. "Noah was upset today." "You can't expose them to your anger or stress." Marcus sighed, the sound heavy with defeat. "I know. I'm trying, Eleanor. It's just everything is falling apart." "I understand that," I said, softening slightly. "But the children have to come first. If you can't manage your emotions during visits, we need to find another way for you to see them." There was silence on the line for a moment. "You're right," Marcus said finally. "I'll do better. I promise." To my surprise, he did. Marcus started therapy, began taking medication for his depression, and gradually became more stable during his time with the children. The change was slow, but it was real. A small step toward healing for all of us. Marcus's therapy journey, detailed process. Marcus's commitment to therapy marked a turning point in his emotional stability and his ability to co-parent effectively. Finding the right therapist. Marcus initially resisted therapy, seeing it as an admission of weakness. After our conversation about the children, he finally agreed to try. He went through 3 therapists before finding Dr. Bennett, a clinical psychologist who specialized in helping professionals navigate career transitions and personal crises. Initial resistance. The first few sessions were difficult. Marcus was defensive, minimizing his problems, blaming external circumstances for his downfall. Dr. Bennett patiently challenged his defenses, helping him see the connection between his choices and their consequences. Breakthrough. The breakthrough came during the 4th session, when Marcus finally admitted his shame and regret. "I ruined everything," he said, tears streaming down his face. "My career, my marriage, my relationship with my children. I don't know how to fix it." Depression diagnosis. Dr. Bennett diagnosed Marcus with major depressive disorder, precipitated by the loss of his career and the collapse of his marriage. He recommended a combination of therapy and medication to help stabilize Marcus's mood. Medication. Marcus was reluctant to take antidepressants, worrying about side effects and stigma. Dr. Bennett explained the neurobiology of depression, how medication could help rebalance his brain chemistry and give him the stability to do the work of therapy. Marcus finally agreed to try a low dose of sertraline. Therapeutic work. With his mood stabilized, Marcus was able to engage more deeply in therapy. He explored the roots of his infidelity, his need for validation, his fear of aging, his tendency to avoid emotional intimacy. He examined how his professional identity had become entangled with his self-worth, and how losing that identity had triggered a crisis. Co-parenting. Focus. A significant portion of Marcus's therapy focused on his role as a father. Doctor. Bennett helped him understand how his emotional instability was affecting the children, and they developed strategies for managing his emotions during visits. Progress. Gradually, Marcus showed improvement. His mood stabilized, his anger decreased, and he became more present and engaged during his time with the children. He learned to recognize when he was becoming overwhelmed and to take steps to calm himself before his emotions affected the children. Co-parenting agreement. Detailed structure. To support Marcus's progress and ensure the children's well-being, we developed a comprehensive co-parenting agreement. Communication protocol. We agreed to communicate primarily through a co-parenting app, with limited text communication for urgent matters only. We would have monthly check-in calls to discuss the children's needs and any concerns. Visitation schedule. We established a consistent visitation schedule every other weekend, one evening per week, and alternating holidays. The predictability helped the children feel secure and gave Marcus structure to plan around. Emotional guidelines. Marcus agreed to refrain from discussing his personal problems, legal issues, or financial struggles with the children. He also committed to managing his emotions during visits, taking breaks if needed, rather than becoming angry or upset in front of the children. Crisis plan. We developed a plan for handling emotional crises. If Marcus felt overwhelmed during a visit, he would call me to pick up the children early with no judgment or penalty. This gave him an out and protected the children from his emotional volatility. Therapy requirement. Marcus agreed to continue therapy and medication as long as needed. He also agreed to attend monthly co-parenting counseling sessions with me to address any issues that arose. School communication. We agreed to share all school-related information and to attend parent-teacher conferences together when possible. We would present a united front to the school despite our personal differences. Extracurricular activities. We developed a system for coordinating the children's extracurricular activities, ensuring that both of us could attend important events and that the children's schedules were managed smoothly. Financial arrangements. We clarified the financial aspects of co-parenting, including child support, extracurricular expenses, and how unexpected costs would be handled. Children's adjustment. Detailed progress. The structured co-parenting approach combined with Marcus's commitment to therapy, led to significant improvements in the children's well-being. Lily's adjustment, Lily, now 12, had initially struggled with the instability of Marcus's emotional state. She had become anxious, withdrawn, and overly responsible, trying to manage everyone's emotions. With the new structure in place, she began to relax. Her anxiety decreased, and she re-engaged with her art and friendships. She developed a more realistic understanding of Marcus loving him as her father, while recognizing his flaws and limitations. Noah's progress. Noah, at 9, had been the most affected by Marcus's emotional volatility. He had regressed behaviorally, having accidents at night, struggling in school, and showing signs of anxiety. With Marcus's increased stability and the consistent co-parenting structure, Noah's behavior improved dramatically. His accidents stopped, his school performance recovered, and his anxiety decreased. Relationship with Marcus. Both children developed a more stable relationship with Marcus. They enjoyed their time with him, felt secure in his love, and understood that his emotional struggles were not their responsibility. They also learned to set boundaries with him, telling him when they felt uncomfortable or when his behavior was upsetting them. Emotional security. The structured co-parenting approach provided the children with emotional security. They knew what to expect from both parents, felt confident that both Marcus and I would meet their needs, and understood that they were loved and valued by both of us. Resilience. Perhaps most importantly, the children developed resilience. They learned to navigate the complexities of divorced parents, to adapt to changing circumstances, and to find stability within themselves. They learned that love doesn't always look perfect, that families come in different forms, and that they could thrive even in challenging circumstances. Watching the children adjust and thrive despite the challenges of divorce and Marcus's struggles was one of the most rewarding aspects of this difficult journey. Their resilience gave me hope, their love sustained me, and their happiness became my highest priority. Chapter 15. The Professional Triumph. The Metropolitan Museum exhibition was a resounding success. Critics praised its bold vision and scholarly rigor, and attendance broke records for the museum. I received invitations to speak at conferences around the country, sharing my insights on feminist art and the importance of women's voices in the art world. One evening, after a successful talk at a university in Boston, I received a call from the director of the Guggenheim Museum. They were planning a major retrospective on a pioneering female artist and wanted me to curate the exhibition. It would be a 3-year commitment, the director explained. We'd need you to relocate to New York, at least temporarily. The opportunity was everything I had worked for. Recognition at the highest level of my field, the chance to work with one of the world's most prestigious institutions. It also meant uprooting the children, leaving behind the support system we had built in the wake of the divorce. I discussed it with Daniel, with my therapist, with Lily and Noah. Daniel was supportive, as always. It's an incredible opportunity, Eleanor. We'll make it work, whatever you decide. Lily, now 12, had mixed feelings. I don't want to leave my friends, she said, but I want you to be happy. Noah, at 9, was more resistant. Can't Daddy come with us? He asked. I miss him. The question caught me off guard. Marcus and I had established a fragile co-parenting piece, but the idea of him moving to New York with us was complicated, emotionally, logistically, legally. I called Marcus to discuss the possibility. To my surprise, he was open to the idea. New York could be good for me, he said. A fresh start. I could look for positions there, be closer to the children. And so, a plan began to take shape. A new beginning for all of us, in the city that never sleeps, with the ghosts of our past slowly receding in the rearview mirror. Guggenheim opportunity. Detailed scope. The Guggenheim opportunity was a career-defining moment that would shape the next chapter of my professional life. The artist. The retrospective would feature the work of Amrita Shergill, a pioneering Indian artist who has been called one of the greatest avant-garde women artists of the early 20th century. Shergill's work had been under-recognized in Western art history, and the Guggenheim wanted to change that with a comprehensive retrospective. The scope. The exhibition would include over 100 paintings, drawings, and photographs, spanning Shergill's entire career. It would travel to 3 additional museums after its New York run, bringing Shergill's work to a global audience. My role. As lead curator, I would be responsible for selecting the artworks, developing the curatorial vision, writing the catalog essays, coordinating with international lenders, and overseeing the exhibition design and installation. It was a massive undertaking that would require 3 years of dedicated work. The team. I would lead a team of assistant curators, researchers, designers, and educators. We would collaborate with scholars from around the world, particularly in India, where Shergill's work is most celebrated. The impact. This exhibition had the potential to reshape art historical narratives, bringing greater recognition to women artists from non-Western traditions and challenging the Eurocentric focus of much art history. Personal significance. For me personally, this opportunity represented the culmination of everything I had worked toward in my career. It was a chance to make a meaningful contribution to art history, to amplify underrepresented voices, and to establish myself as a leader in my field. Decision-making process. Detailed considerations. Deciding whether to accept the Guggenheim position involved careful consideration of multiple factors. Professional impact. The opportunity was undeniably the highlight of my career. Accepting would mean significant professional advancement, increased visibility in the art world, and the chance to make a meaningful contribution to art history. Declining would mean passing up a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Personal impact? The position would require relocating to New York for at least 3 years, uprooting the children from their schools, friends, and established routines. It would also mean navigating a long-distance relationship with Daniel, at least initially. Children's needs. The children's well-being was my primary consideration. Lily was thriving in her current school, had close friends, and was deeply involved in her art classes. Noah was doing well academically and socially, had a strong support system, and was just beginning to recover from the instability of the divorce years. Marcus's role? The possibility of Marcus moving to New York with us added complexity. On one hand, it would allow him to be closer to the children, potentially providing more stability in their lives. On the other hand, it would require navigating a more integrated co-parenting arrangement, which could be challenging given our history. Daniel's support. Daniel was unwavering in his support. "This is your dream job, Eleanor," he said. "We'll make it work. I can commute on weekends or look for opportunities in New York. Whatever you decide, I'm with you." Financial considerations. The Guggenheim position came with a substantial salary that would more than cover the increased cost of living in New York. It would also provide resources to ensure the children's smooth transition, private schools, tutoring, therapy if needed. Long-term vision. I had to consider not just the immediate impact, but the long-term implications for my career and family. This position could open doors to future opportunities, establish me as a leader in my field, and provide financial security for years to come. After weeks of consideration, discussion with Daniel, therapy sessions, and conversations with the children, I made my decision. I would accept the Guggenheim position, relocate to New York, and find a way to make it work for all of us. Relocation to New York. Detailed transition. Moving to New York was a massive undertaking that required careful planning and execution. Housing. I found a spacious apartment on the Upper East Side, close to the Guggenheim and the children's new schools. It was expensive, but the Guggenheim provided a housing stipend that made it manageable. The apartment had enough space for the children to have their own rooms, for Daniel to stay when he visited, and for me to have a home office. Schools. Researching and selecting schools for Lily and Noah was a major project. I wanted schools that would challenge them academically while providing the support they needed during this transition. We ended up choosing a progressive private school that emphasized arts education and emotional intelligence. The school had experience helping students transition from other cities and offered resources to support the children through this change. Marcus's move. Marcus decided to join us in New York, finding an apartment in Brooklyn. He looked for positions in hospitals there, eventually accepting a job at a community hospital in Brooklyn. It was a significant step down from his previous position, but it allowed him to continue practicing medicine and be close to the children. Daniel's arrangement. Daniel decided to split his time between New York and Boston, where he had a tenured position at Columbia. He would spend weekdays in Boston, commuting to New York on weekends, and would join us in New York during school breaks and summer. It wasn't ideal, but it was a workable solution for the time being. The move. The physical move was chaotic packing, shipping, setting up new homes, but it was also cathartic, leaving behind the city where Marcus had betrayed me, starting fresh in a new city with new opportunities. Adjustment period. The first few months in New York were challenging. The children struggled with new schools, new friends, the absence of their familiar surroundings. I was overwhelmed by the demands of my new position, the logistics of single parenting in a new city, the emotional toll of the transition. Daniel was supportive, commuting regularly to help with the children and provide emotional support. Finding community. Gradually, we found our rhythm. The children made friends, thrived in their new schools, fell in love with the city. I settled into my role at the Guggenheim, finding inspiration and purpose in the work. Marcus established a routine with the children, maintaining his relationship with them while navigating his new job. Daniel became a regular presence in our lives, commuting on weekends and integrating into our family structure, creating a new normal. After 6 months, we had established a new normal. The children were happy and thriving in their new environment. I was excelling in my position at the Guggenheim. Marcus had found stability in his new job and his relationship with the children. Daniel had found a balance between his career in Boston and his life with us in New York. We had created a new version of family complex, non-traditional, but loving and supportive. Professional success, detailed achievements. The Guggenheim exhibition and my new position brought unprecedented professional success and recognition. Critical acclaim. The Amrita Shergill retrospective received rave reviews. The New York Times called it a landmark exhibition that rewrites art history. Art Forum praised the scholarly rigor and curatorial vision that brought new understanding to Shergill's work. The Guardian described it as essential viewing for anyone interested in global modernism. Attendance records. The exhibition broke attendance records for the Guggenheim, drawing visitors from around the world. The museum extended its run twice, and it ultimately stayed open for 18 months. International impact. The exhibition traveled to 3 additional museums: the Tate Modern in London, the National Gallery of Modern Art in New Delhi, and the Art Institute of Chicago. Each venue broke attendance records, and the exhibition received international media coverage. Scholarly contribution. I wrote the lead essay for the exhibition catalog, exploring Shergill's role in the development of modernism in India and her influence on contemporary artists. The essay was widely praised and cited in academic journals, establishing me as a leading voice in global modernist studies. Speaking engagements. The success of the exhibition led to invitations to speak at conferences and universities around the world. I gave keynote addresses at the College Art Association Conference, the International Association of Art Critics Conference, and the Global Feminist Art Project Symposium. Career advancement. Following the exhibition's success, I was promoted to Senior Curator of Contemporary Art at the Guggenheim. The position came with increased responsibility, a significant salary increase, and the opportunity to shape the museum's contemporary art collection for years to come. Awards and recognition. I received several awards for my work on the exhibition, including the Curatorial Excellence Award from the American Association of Museums, the Women in the Arts Leadership Award, and the Global Art History Prize. The professional success was exhilarating, but more than that, it was validating. It confirmed that I had made the right choices, that I had rebuilt my life on my own terms, and that I had achieved success on my own merits. Chapter 16. The New York Chapter. Moving to New York was chaotic and exhilarating. We found a spacious apartment on the Upper West Side, close to Central Park, in the children's new schools. Daniel joined us, finding a position at NYU that allowed him to continue his research while supporting my work at the Guggenheim. Marcus settled into a nearby apartment, making efforts to rebuild his career in the competitive New York medical community. He started volunteering at a free clinic, reconnecting with the passion for medicine that had been overshadowed by ambition and ego. The Guggenheim exhibition consumed my time and energy, but I thrived on the challenge. Working with the museum's team, collaborating with artists and scholars, bringing this important retrospective to life. It was the fulfillment of every professional dream I had ever harbored. Daniel was my rock through it all, supportive, understanding, never making demands on my time or energy. Our relationship deepened in the crucible of this new adventure, growing stronger with each passing day. The children adapted surprisingly well to their new schools, making friends, exploring the city with enthusiasm. Marcus's regular presence in their lives provided stability, and his improved emotional state made their time together more positive. Apartment and neighborhood, detailed setting. Our new life in New York centered around our apartment on the Upper West Side, a neighborhood that perfectly balanced urban energy with residential tranquility. The apartment. We found a pre-war co-op on West 83rd Street, just 2 blocks from Central Park. The apartment was spacious by New York standards. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a large living room with floor-to-ceiling windows, and a separate dining room. The building had a doorman, an elevator, and a shared rooftop deck with stunning city views. My home office. One of the bedrooms became my home office, a sanctuary where I could work on exhibition planning, research, and writing. I filled it with books, art supplies, and a large desk overlooking the street below. It was my creative space, my thinking space, my retreat from the demands of my position. Children's rooms, Lily and Noah each had their own bedroom, decorated to reflect their personalities. Lily's room was an artist's studio with an easel, art supplies, and a gallery wall for her paintings. Noah's room was a science enthusiast's dream, with a telescope by the window, posters of the solar system, and shelves filled with science books and models. Daniel's space? Daniel had his own room when he was in New York, filled with his books, research materials, and a comfortable reading chair. It was his space within our home, a place where he could work, read, and relax. Neighborhood. The Upper West Side was perfect for our family. It was family-friendly, with excellent schools, parks, and playgrounds. We were close to the Museum of Natural History, the Children's Museum of Manhattan, and of course, Central Park. The neighborhood had a village-like feel, with local shops, restaurants, and cafes that gave it a sense of community. Community. We quickly became part of the neighborhood community. We joined the local library, participated in neighborhood events, and made friends with other families in the building. The children made friends in the building and at their schools, creating a sense of belonging that helped them adjust to the move. Marcus's new start. Detailed progress. Marcus's move to New York marked a new chapter in his personal and professional life. New position. Marcus accepted a position at a community hospital in Brooklyn. It was a significant step down from his previous role as chief of neurosurgery, but it allowed him to continue practicing medicine and be close to the children. The hospital served an underserved population, giving Marcus's work a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Professional approach. Marcus approached his new position with humility and dedication. He was no longer the ambitious, status-conscious surgeon he had been. Instead, he focused on providing excellent patient care, mentoring younger doctors, and contributing to the hospital's mission. His colleagues respected his skills and appreciated his commitment. Emotional stability. Marcus's therapy and medication continued to support his emotional stability. He was more present, more engaged, and more emotionally available than he had been in years. The children noticed the difference, commenting on how calm and happy Daddy seemed now. Relationship with children. Marcus's relationship with the children flourished in New York. With consistent visitation, emotional stability, and the absence of the stress that had plagued him in our old city, he became a more reliable, engaged father. He attended their school events, helped with homework, and created special traditions with them. Sunday morning breakfasts, monthly museum visits, weekend adventures in the city. Personal growth. Marcus also focused on personal growth outside of medicine. He volunteered at a free clinic, took up photography, and reconnected with old friends who had distanced themselves during his affair and subsequent downfall. He seemed to be finding a new identity, one based on humility, service, and connection rather than ambition and status. Relationship with Daniel. Surprisingly, Marcus and Daniel developed a respectful, cordial relationship. They never became friends, but they were able to coexist peacefully for the children's sake. Daniel appreciated Marcus's stability and commitment to the children, and Marcus respected Daniel's role in our lives. Daniel's integration. Detailed role. Daniel's integration into our New York life was gradual and thoughtful, always prioritizing the children's well-being, professional balance. Daniel found a balance between his career in Boston and his life with us in New York. He maintained his tenured position at Columbia, commuting to New York on weekends and during school breaks. He also arranged his schedule to spend longer periods in New York during the summer and over winter holidays. Relationship with children. Daniel's relationship with Lily and Noah deepened over time. He was a constant, loving presence in their lives, helping with homework, attending their school events, taking them on adventures around the city. He never tried to replace Marcus, but instead became another caring adult in their lives, adding richness and stability to their world. Support for my career. Daniel was incredibly supportive of my demanding career at the Guggenheim. He understood the long hours, the travel, the emotional investment required, and he never made me feel guilty for the time I spent on my work. Instead, he celebrated my successes, supported me through challenges, and created a home environment that allowed me to thrive professionally, creating traditions. Together, we created new traditions that blended our family Sunday morning brunches at a neighborhood cafe, monthly visits to a different museum or cultural institution, holiday celebrations that included both Marcus and Daniel. These traditions helped the children feel secure in our new family structure. Emotional support. Daniel was my emotional rock through the challenges of relocation, career demands, and co-parenting complexities. He listened without judgment, offered advice when asked, and provided unwavering support through difficult moments. His emotional availability and stability were a stark contrast to Marcus's emotional distance during our marriage. Future plans. As Daniel and I looked toward the future, we discussed the possibility of him moving to New York full-time. Columbia had offered him a permanent position, and we were considering buying a larger apartment that could accommodate all of us more permanently. These conversations were thoughtful and intentional, always considering the children's needs and feelings. Children's adjustment. Detailed experiences. The children's adjustment to New York was remarkable, demonstrating their resilience and adaptability. Lily's artistic flourishing. Lily, now 13, thrived in New York's vibrant art scene. She took classes at the Art Students League, participated in teen programs at the Guggenheim, and even had her work displayed in a local gallery. Her art became more sophisticated, exploring themes of identity, transition, and belonging. She also made friends at her new school, joining the art club and the debate team. Noah's scientific exploration. Noah, at 10, fell in love with New York's scientific institutions. He became a regular at the Museum of Natural History, participated in the American Museum of Natural History's science camp, and even got to meet an astronaut at a special event. His interest in astronomy deepened, and he spent hours with his telescope on the rooftop deck, mapping constellations and learning about the universe. School success. Both children excelled academically in their new schools. The progressive educational approach challenged them intellectually while supporting their emotional and social development. Lily's teachers praised her critical thinking and creativity, while Noah's teachers noted his curiosity and analytical skills. Social integration. The children made friends quickly, joining sports teams, clubs, and social groups. Lily became close friends with a group of girls who shared her passion for art and social justice. Noah found friends who loved science and exploring the city as much as he did. Relationship with Marcus. The children's relationship with Marcus continued to strengthen in New York. With his emotional stability and consistent presence, they felt secure in his love and commitment. They enjoyed their time with him, appreciated his efforts to be a good father, and understood that his past struggles didn't define their relationship now. Relationship with Daniel. The children's relationship with Daniel deepened into something special. They saw him as a caring, supportive adult who added richness to their lives. They appreciated his patience, his intelligence, and his genuine interest in their lives. Noah particularly valued their shared interest in science, while Lily loved discussing art and social issues with Danielle. New York adventures. The children embraced New York as their playground, exploring different neighborhoods, trying new foods, visiting cultural institutions, and experiencing the energy and diversity of the city. They developed a sense of independence and confidence that came from navigating the city on their own terms. Watching the children thrive in New York, embracing new challenges and opportunities, was one of the greatest joys of this new chapter. Their resilience, adaptability, and enthusiasm for life gave me hope for the future and reinforced that we had made the right decision in moving to New York. Chapter 17. The exhibition's opening. The opening night of the Guggenheim exhibition was a glittering affair. Artists, collectors, critics, and museum patrons gathered to celebrate the work of a pioneering female artist who had been overlooked for too long. As I stood in the center of the rotunda, surrounded by the art I had curated, the people I had worked with, the family that supported me, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This was my moment, my triumph, hard-earned and deeply satisfying. Daniel stood beside me, his hand in mine, his eyes shining with pride. Lily and Noah, now 14 and 11, were there, proud of their mother, their earlier pain softened by time and stability. Even Marcus was there, standing at the edge of the crowd, his expression a complex mix of pride and regret. In my speech, I acknowledged the team that had made the exhibition possible, the artist whose work we celebrated, and the family that supported me through the journey. Art has the power to heal, to transform, to give voice to the voiceless, I said, my voice clear and strong. That is the gift we honor tonight, and the gift I hope we all carry forward. As the applause died down, I looked around the room at Daniel's loving gaze, at Lily and Noah's proud smiles, even at Marcus's respectful nod. The betrayal that had once defined my existence seemed distant now, a painful chapter in a much larger story. Opening night, detail scene. The Guggenheim Rotunda was transformed for the opening night. The iconic spiral ramp was adorned with Amrita Shergill's vibrant paintings, their colors seeming to glow against the museum's white walls. Elegant lighting highlighted the artwork, while soft music created an atmosphere of sophistication and celebration. Guests arrived in a steady stream, art collectors in designer gowns and tailored suits, museum board members, artists and scholars, critics and journalists. The air buzzed with excitement and intellectual energy, the sound of clinking glasses and animated conversation creating a symphony of cultural celebration. I stood near the entrance, greeting guests as they arrived. Daniel stood beside me, a steady presence at my side, his hand resting lightly on my back. He looked handsome in a tailored tuxedo, his eyes warm with pride as he watched me interact with the guests. Lily and Noah arrived with Marcus, who had brought them directly from a special pre-opening tour I had arranged for them. Lily looked stunning in a simple black dress, her hair swept up in an elegant style that highlighted her artistic maturity. Noah looked handsome in a small tuxedo, his eyes wide with wonder as he took in the spectacle of the event. "You look beautiful, Mom," Lily said, kissing my cheek. "I'm so proud of you." Noah hugged me tightly. "This is amazing, Mom. Your exhibition is the best." Marcus approached, looking handsome in a dark suit, his expression a mix of pride and something else regret, perhaps, for what he had lost. "Eleanor," he said, his voice soft, "this is incredible. You've outdone yourself." "Thank you, Marcus," I replied, my voice warm. "I'm glad you could be here." Daniel extended his hand to Marcus. "Marcus, good to see you." Marcus shook his hand, a gesture of respect between two men who had found a way to coexist peacefully for the children's sake. "Daniel, thank you for being here for Eleanor and the children." As the evening progressed, I circulated through the crowd, speaking with guests, answering questions about the exhibition, and accepting congratulations on the curatorial vision. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Critics praised the groundbreaking scholarship and innovative presentation, while artists and scholars expressed appreciation for bringing Shergill's work to a global audience. At 8 p.m., the museum director called everyone to attention for my speech. I stepped up to the podium, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and nerves. Looking out at the crowd, I saw Daniel, Lily, and Noah in the front row, their faces filled with pride and love. Marcus stood nearby, his expression thoughtful and respectful. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to celebrate this important exhibition," I began, my voice clear and strong. Amrita Shergill was a pioneering artist whose work has been under-recognized for too long. This exhibition seeks to correct that historical oversight and to celebrate her unique contribution to modern art. I spoke about Shergill's life and work, about the challenges she faced as a woman artist in the early 20th century, about the innovative techniques and bold vision that defined her art. I acknowledged the team that had made the exhibition possible, the lenders who had generously shared their artworks, and the museum that had supported this vision. Most importantly, I continued, my voice softening, I want to thank my family. my children, Lily and Noah, who have been my inspiration and my motivation through every challenge. My partner, Daniel, whose unwavering support has made this journey possible. And Marcus, the father of my children, who has found a way to be part of this celebration despite our complicated history. I looked at each of them as I spoke, my eyes meeting theirs with gratitude and love. Art has the power to heal, to transform, to give voice to the voiceless, I concluded. That is the gift we honor tonight, and the gift I hope we all carry forward. The applause was thunderous, filling the rotunda with warmth and appreciation. As I stepped down from the podium, Daniel wrapped his arms around me, his embrace strong and loving. Lily and Noah rushed to hug me, their faces bright with pride. Even Marcus approached, offering a respectful nod and a quiet, "Well done, Eleanor." In that moment, surrounded by love, success, and the art I had curated, I felt a profound sense of peace and accomplishment. The journey had been long and difficult, filled with pain and betrayal, loss and rebuilding, but it had led me here to this moment of triumph, this celebration of art and family, this feeling of being exactly where I was meant to be. Critical reception, detailed reviews. The opening night was just the beginning of the exhibition's success. The critical reception in the following days and weeks was overwhelmingly positive. The New York Times. Eleanor Thorne's curation of Amrita Shergill's work is nothing short of revelatory. This exhibition not only reintroduces a pioneering artist to Western audiences, but also challenges traditional narratives of modernism. Thorne's scholarly rigor and innovative presentation make this a landmark exhibition that will influence art historical discourse for years to come. Art Forum, the Guggenheim's Shergill retrospective, curated by Eleanor Thorne, is a triumph of feminist curatorial practice. Thorne's contextualization of Shergill's work within global modernism, rather than limiting it to national frameworks, opens up new ways of understanding artistic development in the 20th century. This is essential viewing for anyone interested in the future of art history. The Guardian. Amrita Shergill finally receives the recognition she deserves in this breathtaking exhibition at the Guggenheim. Curator Eleanor Thorne has assembled a comprehensive collection of Shergill's work, presented with scholarly insight and aesthetic sensitivity. The exhibition not only celebrates Shergill's artistic genius, but also highlights the ongoing project of recovering women artists from historical obscurity. Art in America. Eleanor Thorne's curation of the Shergill retrospective is a masterclass in feminist curatorial practice. By placing Shergill's work in conversation with both her Indian contemporaries and Western modernists, Thorne creates a dialogue that transcends cultural and national boundaries. This exhibition is not just about one artist, it's about reimagining the very narratives of art history. Hyperallergic. The Guggenheim's Shergill retrospective, curated by Eleanor Thorne, is a must-see exhibition that challenges and delights in equal measure. Thorne's thoughtful presentation highlights Shergill's technical innovation, bold use of color, and unflinching exploration of identity and desire. This exhibition is a testament to the power of feminist curatorial practice to reshape our understanding of art history. Personal impact, detailed reflections. The success of the exhibition had a profound impact on my personal and professional life. Professional validation. The critical acclaim and popular success of the exhibition validated my curatorial vision and scholarly approach. It established me as a leader in feminist curatorial practice and global modernist studies, opening doors to future opportunities and collaborations. Personal fulfillment. Beyond professional recognition, the exhibition brought a deep sense of personal fulfillment. I had dedicated years to this project, investing my intellectual energy, emotional labor, and creative vision. seeing it come to fruition so successfully was incredibly rewarding. Family pride. The pride I saw in Lily, Noah, Daniel, and even Marcus was perhaps the most meaningful aspect of the exhibition's success. They had supported me through the challenges, and now they were celebrating this triumph with me. Their pride and love were the greatest rewards. Artistic community. The exhibition connected me with a global community of artists, scholars, curators, and art lovers. I received emails and messages from around the world, expressing appreciation for the exhibition and its impact. This sense of connection to a global artistic community was deeply fulfilling. Future opportunities. The success of the exhibition led to numerous new opportunities. Invitations to curate other exhibitions, to speak at conferences, to contribute to publications, to collaborate with museums and universities around the world. My professional future was brighter than ever. Personal growth. The journey of curating this exhibition had also been a journey of personal growth. I had developed new skills, deepened my knowledge, expanded my vision, and strengthened my confidence as a curator and leader. Legacy. Perhaps most importantly, the exhibition felt like a contribution to something larger than myself, a contribution to the ongoing project of recovering women artists from historical obscurity, of challenging traditional art, historical narratives, of creating a more inclusive and accurate understanding of art history. As I reflected on the exhibition's success, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity, for the support of my family, for the collaborative team that had made it possible, and for the chance to contribute to something meaningful in the world of art. Chapter 18. The Unwritten Future. Today, I sit in my office at the Guggenheim, surrounded by plans for the next exhibition, correspondence with artists and scholars, the evidence of a career that continues to evolve and expand. Daniel and I have talked about the future, about marriage, about perhaps expanding our family, about building a life together in this city that has become our home. Lily is thriving in her first year of high school, her artistic talent blossoming under the guidance of mentors at the Guggenheim's teen program. Noah is excelling in middle school, his passion for science leading him to participate in advanced programs at the Museum of Natural History. Marcus has found a measure of peace in his work at the community hospital, his relationship with the children stable and loving. The four of us, Daniel, the children, Marcus, and I, have established a fragile but functional extended family, co-parenting with respect, celebrating holidays together, supporting each other through the challenges of life. As I look toward the future, I feel not fear but excitement. For the exhibitions I will curate, the art I will bring to the world, the love I will continue to nurture with Daniel, the family I will help, guide, and support. The betrayal that once defined my existence has become just one part of my story, a painful but transformative chapter in the book of my life. The scars remain, but they have become part of my landscape reminders of how far I've come, testaments to my resilience. And that, I've learned through this painful, transformative journey, is more than enough. Future plans. Detailed vision. As I sit in my office at the Guggenheim, looking out over Central Park, I find myself thinking about the future with excitement and anticipation. Professional vision. My position as senior curator of contemporary art gives me the opportunity to shape the Guggenheim's collection and exhibition program for years to come. I'm planning several ambitious exhibitions that will continue to challenge traditional art historical narratives and amplify underrepresented voices. I'm also working on a book about feminist curatorial practice, sharing my insights and experiences with the next generation of curators. Personal goals with Daniel. Daniel and I have talked seriously about our future together. We're considering marriage, perhaps expanding our family. Daniel has suggested adopting a child, giving another child the opportunity to be part of our loving family. We're also discussing buying a larger apartment that could accommodate our growing family more permanently. Children's futures. Lily is passionate about pursuing art professionally, and I'm supporting her in exploring art schools and programs. Noah is showing remarkable aptitude for science, and we're encouraging his interests through advanced classes and mentorship opportunities. Both children are thriving, and I'm committed to supporting their dreams and aspirations. Marcuse's role. Marcus will continue to be an important part of the children's lives. His stability and commitment to them have been consistent, and I'm grateful for the positive relationship he maintains with them. We've established a co-parenting arrangement that works well for all of us, and I expect that to continue. Community building. I'm also thinking about ways to give back to the community that has supported me. I'm considering starting a foundation to support women curators, particularly those from underrepresented backgrounds. I want to create opportunities for the next generation, just as others created opportunities for me. Personal growth. I'm committed to continuing my own personal growth through therapy, through learning, through challenging myself. I want to keep evolving, keep learning, keep becoming the best version of myself, for Daniel, for the children, and for the work I am passionate about. Legacy. As I think about the future, I also think about legacy. What kind of mark do I want to leave on the world? Through my curatorial work, my writing, my mentorship of young curators, and my support of the children, I hope to contribute to a more inclusive, diverse, and equitable art world. Current life. Detailed snapshot. Life in New York has settled into a comfortable and fulfilling rhythm. Daily routine. My days typically start early with coffee and planning time before the children wake up. After seeing them off to school, I head to the Guggenheim, where my days are filled with meetings, research, exhibition planning, and collaboration with my team. Evenings are for family time dinner, helping with homework, and relaxing together. Daniel's schedule? Daniel spends weekdays in Boston, commuting to New York on weekends. We make the most of our time together, exploring the city, enjoying cultural events, and simply being together as a family. During school breaks and summer, he spends longer periods in New York, and we take family trips together. Children's activities. Lily is deeply involved in her art-taking classes at the Art Students League, participating in teen programs at the Guggenheim, and working on her own portfolio. Noah is passionate about science, joining the astronomy club at school, participating in programs at the Museum of Natural History, and spending hours with his telescope. Marcus's involvement. Marcus sees the children every weekend and one evening during the week. They have established their own routines. Sunday brunch at a neighborhood cafe, monthly museum visits, and occasional weekend trips to explore different parts of New York. Marcus's emotional stability has made these visits positive and enjoyable for everyone. Family traditions. We've created meaningful family traditions that include all of us. Monthly family dinners, holiday celebrations, and summer vacations. These traditions help maintain connection and stability for the children, even with our non-traditional family structure. Social life. Daniel and I have developed a rich social life in New York. We have friends in the art world, academic circles, and our neighborhood. We enjoy dinner parties, cultural events, and quiet evenings at home with close friends. Personal time. I make sure to carve out personal time for myself. Time to read, to reflect, to pursue my own interests. This self-care is essential for maintaining balance and preventing burnout in my demanding career. Reflections on the journey. Deepened insights. As I reflect on the journey that brought me to this moment, I'm struck by how much has changed and how much I've grown. From betrayal to wholeness. The betrayal that once shattered my world has become just one part of my story, a painful but transformative chapter that led to greater self-awareness, resilience, and authenticity. I've moved from being defined by Marcus's betrayal to being defined by my own choices, values, and accomplishments. From wife to curator. My identity has evolved from Marcus's wife to Eleanor Thorne, respected curator. This shift wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. I've reclaimed my sense of self, my independence, and my purpose beyond being someone's wife or partner. From broken family to blended family. Our family structure has transformed from a traditional nuclear family to a complex blended family that includes Daniel, Marcus, and the children. While non-traditional, this family structure works for us, providing love, support, and stability for the children. From pain to purpose. The pain of betrayal has been transformed into purpose. Through my curatorial work, my mentorship of young women in the arts, and my commitment to creating a more inclusive art world. The pain hasn't disappeared, but it has been integrated into a larger narrative of growth and meaning. From fear to courage. I have moved from fear of being alone, fear of failure, fear of the unknown, to courage. Courage to end my marriage. Courage to pursue my dreams. Courage to love again. Courage to create a new kind of family. From resentment to acceptance. My feelings about Marcus have evolved from resentment and anger to acceptance and even compassion. I don't condone his choices, but I understand the pain and regret that drove them. This acceptance has brought peace to our co-parenting relationship and allowed me to move forward without bitterness. From survival to thriving, I've moved from merely surviving the betrayal and divorce to truly thriving in my personal and professional life. This journey has taught me that healing is possible, that growth can come from pain, and that new beginnings can emerge from endings. Final thoughts. Philosophical reflections. As I conclude this reflection on my journey, I find myself thinking about the nature of love, betrayal, and healing. Love is not monolithic. I've learned that love takes many forms. Romantic love, familial love, self-love, love for one's work and purpose. Each form of love is valid and valuable, and none diminishes the others. My love for Daniel doesn't diminish my love for my children or my love for Marcus as their father. Betrayal is not the end. Betrayal, as painful as it is not the end of the story. It can be a beginning of self-discovery, of new relationships, of a more authentic life. The scars of betrayal remain, but they become part of one's story, not the whole story. Healing is non-linear. Healing doesn't follow a straight path. It's a journey with ups and downs, progress and setbacks. Some days I feel strong and whole, other days the pain of betrayal resurfaces. All of it is part of the process. Family is what you make it. Family doesn't have to fit a traditional mold to be real and loving. Our blended family, Daniel, Marcus, the children, and me works because we prioritize the children's well-being, communicate honestly, and respect each other's roles. Purpose heals. Finding purpose. Through my work, through mentoring others, through creating positive change has been essential to my healing. Purpose gives meaning to pain and transforms suffering into growth. Resilience is built, not given. Resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you build through experience, through challenge, through choosing to keep going even when it's hard. My journey has taught me that I'm more resilient than I ever imagined. The future is unwritten. Perhaps the most important lesson I've learned is that the future is unwritten. No matter how painful the past has been, the future remains a blank page, full of possibility. We get to write the next chapter, to create what comes next, to build a life that reflects our values and dreams. As I look toward that unwritten future, I feel not fear but excitement for the exhibitions I will curate, the art I will bring to the world, the love I will continue to nurture with Daniel, the family I will help guide and support, and the person I will continue to become. The betrayal was real, devastating even, but it was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new one, written in my own words, on my own terms, with my own hard-won wisdom guiding each sentence. And that, I've learned through this painful, transformative journey, is more than enough.